His mind will know when there's nothing in the way. Keep pushing proof into the pitch of fire until you see him. Come on, you know we're gonna break through.
Hello everyone and welcome to the WREC finals. Once again, we won upsets and we had the first after the Formulation Gaming versus Pala Esports series where Pala Esports took down Formulation by 2-0. Right now, tiebreaker. The fact is that Formulation Gaming have a really difficult job to do.
Yeah, they need to beat Gamelord or they are out. And even if they're winning it, they will go into the tiebreaker. So it's very interesting to see how well they can perform against Gamelord, knowing that it's the last chance. They just lost and now they have to play against a powerhouse team like Gamelord. So that's going to be very difficult for them.
It's going to be very difficult because if they win the series, it's going to be a long day for Formulation Gaming. Yeah, going to be a long path to the quarterfinals. But the fact is that the momentum is going to be everything. Housebreaker, you were casting with me that last game with the pentakill and everything. And do you think that Formulation's gaming momentum is broken down?
I don't think it's broken down. I know the players. I know how good they are. I know that they, they can stay calm and collective. And even against a team like Gamelord, who is obviously the superior team coming into the series, I do feel they can take it. Like, if you look at the players, they're very experienced. Although not as experienced on a live game, but they're very experienced. We saw against Unicorns of Love, for example, right? Like they dominated. They dominated, no mistakes. I just feel they lost that game against Parla, the second game, because of the draft. They just essentially set themselves up for failure. But I feel they have a chance, definitely.
Definitely have a shot. We see Gamelord bleeding today, but the fact is that Formulation Gaming needs the mental reset to come into this series. And the fact is that they're gonna face Gamelord, who won versus Pala Esports into their very game, the team fight. And if Formulation Gaming lost versus Pala's team thanks to Stuart, they're gonna have a tough time now.
It's going to be really tough, I think, for both teams, really. I think Gamelord coming into this tournament as one of the favourites. They definitely haven't looked the strongest. I still feel like they kind of have a few flaws as well. Formulation obviously lost the previous game against Parla as well, so they're going to be on a down slope. But coming into this, I'm expecting Gamelord to win. But to be honest, I think Formulation do have that opportunity to come back as well. I do feel like if Formulation do turn this around, like Darkbreaker said, tiebreakers, everything is going to be completely wild. And honestly, anything can happen. It's a live event.
I mean, we expect like Formulation Gaming to push themselves farther than ever. And to disclose that, we have Caroline ready for the interview. The interview, but we are getting to see the Formulation Gaming guys into the stage in just a few seconds, pushing themselves forward. And I would say that maybe changing some things in the draft tiebreaker would be amazing for them.
I mean, obviously, I feel like Gamelord is gonna ban out Don, especially his Aurelia that has been looking super strong. And Rakan is a very important pick, both for Trust and Hester. So I think those are two power picks, and obviously stuff like Karma, Camille, those are strong picks. Galio has been really been good this entire day, and Gragas as well. Those are picks that are going to be highly contested, and then we will see how these teams are going to switch it up depending on what type of team composition they want to build.
Let's see if Formulation, they can do it versus one of the favorites, force the triple tiebreaker, and send us home really, really late in the night because we get to cost if that happens a lot of games. But Gamelord, these guys beat Paula Esports, and as I said, it was playing the very same game, playing to the team fights, playing around the mutual objectives. They are the favorite Hellsbreaker, and they're gonna make Formulation Gaming life a hell.
Hellsbreaker, I love that one. I'll keep that one in my head, right? Like when we agree on something, it's gonna be the Hellsbreaker as well. But yeah, for sure, like Gamelord is the team, right? Like in my opinion, they have the 3 players that are the best in their respective role. We've talked about this many, many times. Heste, Lonely Kid, and Zefta. Like I also personally believe these are the best in their respective roles. But up against Formulation Gaming, right? Like it's team against team. And as I said, I think Formulation Gaming can take it if they play better as a team and if they win the draft as well.
And as I said, today we get to see, Gamelord bleed. And one of the crucial points I think it's going to be, Stuart, make Gamelord out of their comfort zone. Because we saw that when the difficult times came through, they went to the comfort peaks such as the WREC.
Exactly. I mean, I think with Gamelord, they're not taking any risks at the moment. I think that's the thing. They're playing the comforts, like you said, like the Ari, the Orianna for redemption in the duo lane as well. And I think this is where Feko and other players on the side of Formulation can definitely come out stronger than Gamelord as well, because Gamelord, I don't feel like they've really adapted to the meta at the moment, to be honest with you. Champions like Ari, we don't see anymore. AP Mages in the bot lane, we haven't seen too much. Orianna, we haven't really seen in this entire tournament, only by Snitch in the mid lane. So I feel like if Formulation can definitely use that and use that towards their draft, definitely they can use that to their advantage.
I feel like the level of both of those teams, or of the entire group, is very, very close together. Like we had so many intense games, like they were super close, and definitely if Formulation Gaming can step up, they can upset Gamelord, but Gamelord has been looking a little bit shaky coming in here. They haven't been looking like the top team anymore, and maybe Heste and Redemption, they also should step it up. The bot lane, I think it's going to be the decider.
Just if you look at this graphic as well, I mean, look at those stats. 21 assists for Ruiz, by the way. What? And look at this as well. I mean, what is happening right there? Zaura has 0 kills, 6 deaths, and Lonely Kid on 13 kills on average. What the hell is happening?
Lonely Kid is popping off like crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like the difference in the top lane is going to be decided as well. Like, if Lonely Kid is going to pop off, he's going to take over the entire game. And Zur needs to step up and match the power of Lonely Kid.
Health is just logging.
Yeah, we can hear the players laughing. They're memeing with each other a little bit. I mean, I know Zaura can pull it off, however. I know he can do it. He switched to the Baron lane very, very recently. And when you're up against a player like Lonely Kid, that's the problem. It's like, you're just getting into football and you're going to be up against Ronaldo. This is the Ronaldo.
Okay.
And, like, obviously, it's going to be a hard task to pull off.
Maybe that's too much. You would say, no, but the fact is that you have to play like you can beat him, because otherwise if you play scared, you're gonna get nothing. And that, I felt it when it came, Nasser yesterday. I feel like they were, holding themselves backwards, and that ended bad for them. I really need Simulation to play the best series of their lives up here. If they want to make it to the playoffs, because, we have Rigid waiting right now, we have Team Kesa waiting right now, and we don't have a clue about which of these teams is going to make it out of the groups. I'm going to ask you, Tiebreaker, would you keep your predictions for now?
Yeah, I'm still going to vote for Gamelord because they have been looking still strong. They have top players in the jungle, top lane and support especially, and I think they have been really consistent, and it's gonna be exciting to see which team is gonna qualify for the playoffs, because WREC and Team Queso are waiting, and the level is crazy. Those matches in the upcoming days, Saturday and Sunday, are gonna be crazy, and let's see who's gonna qualify this game. Formulation Gaming, they need to step it up.
We're watching the key points of this series of Formulation versus Gamelord. The end of the line, Hellsdevil. The end of the line, but for who? For who?
The end of the line for who? And I'm honestly more interested in Stuart's opinion on this one. But the end of the line for who?
I mean, it could be the end of the line for Formulation, to be honest with you. I think all of us, probably our predictions are going to say the same. I think we all think that the Gamelord are definitely going to come out on top. But, I mean, it's really difficult because I think coming into this group, we probably thought that like Group A was going to be the closer group out of the two groups. But now coming into this, Group B is extremely, extremely close, and it's going to be interesting to see, you know, Formulation, how they're going to, as I mentioned before, you know, adapt to their draft as well, especially try and maybe get like Gamelord on their comfort again, because when they're playing on their comfort, you know, like the Orianna and the Ari and things like that, I don't think it's really good to the meta. I mean, going back to like the Lonely Kid versus Zawa point, Zawa is not really performed that well in the previous series, but we know he can still step it up. Lonely Kid has been playing Darius twice as well, which has been very interesting with the Hull Breaker as well, which is kind of a champion that's fallen off the meta. So I think it's the same for both teams.
I feel like both Formulation and Gamelord need some adaptation maybe to the new picks, the new meta, but for Gamelord it seems like the individual prowess is perfectly fine. You know, it compensates like the adaptation to the meta, and maybe it's enough tiebreaker for this series.
I mean, I feel like if Hester is just on a playmaking support where he's like actively finding those picks, he is absolutely amazing. And if he just like, if Formulation allows him to be on those aggressive playmakers, I think they will have a problem. So better try to ban him out and force him on reactionary supports or maybe on enchanters, because on those champions he is not necessarily the playmaker, and him and Zefta have so good synergy roaming around trying to pick off people and try to snowball, especially on the top lane, because Lonely Kid, obviously he's a monster. 13 kills.
But how
versus 0.
But how many champions are you gonna ban out though? Like, how many can you ban? You can ban the Leona, the Rakan.
The champion pool. The champion pool.
I think the thing with Heste as well, like you said, I mean, in the regular season for the WREC, we mentioned it before, but Heste has had like 5 bans against him multiple games, and he's still bringing out champions.
I remember,
you know, like
Gamelord.
Like Nami as well, he's still bringing out, but he's playing Nami like a playmaker. Even though Nami's supposed to be a support, like Heste, I think
you can engage.
It's so hard. Exactly. I mean, Heste is so difficult to ban around, and also you've got Lonely Kid is hard to ban around as well, because Gamelord just have so many picks up their sleeves.
Now, guys, now we have the interview. Now we have Gamelord ready to disclose the series in the interview.
Welcome back here. I am Carmeline, ready to have an interview with Movilla, coach of Formulation Gaming, about to face one of the most important games for this year, I think. So, first question. I mean, you come from Lisbon versus Parla. That must be a difficult hit. But what are your expectations? How are you preparing for the second game, for the second series versus Gamelord?
It's kind of a tough match, but I believe that we have chances to win them. So let's give everything in for us.
I know Formulation Gaming is one of the strongest, mentally strongest game teams that we can see, and you've proven it again and again. But I feel like we go to that old saying of you're surviving, not living. I feel like Formulation Gaming has given us better sides. How do you think you can unleash that power and reach that full potential?
I believe that always winning is going to be an option, so we don't just lose our momentum. We just keep going forward, because that's what we need to do to win.
Okay, winning against Gamelord. We've seen Gamelord fault a few times, not doing so well versus Parla. So, are there any weaknesses that you think you can exploit properly in this upcoming series?
I didn't understand. Could you repeat?
Yeah, of course. So, Gamelord, we've seen them a little bit shaky in the first series they played versus Parla. So, is there anything you're preparing against them that you've taken notes of today, and you're like, that one thing, that's what I want to go for?
Our best medicine against Gamelord is going to be a completely our playstyle.
Okay, and the last question here. You've been choosing loads of AD carries there on Fekko. We've seen the Tristana, we've seen the Lucian. I mean, why choosing that kind of playstyle? No other team is doing that, but you keep sticking to that and it works. So why do you think it is that all the teams are not adapting?
Because the meta is going one way and we're going completely the other way.
Okay, thank you very much, Movilla. All the luck in the world for this Warner series, and go for them. Thank you very much. Sending it back to the casters.
Thank you very much, Carmeline, and welcome to the caster. That's Ryu joining me here for this first game of the series. I'm Stress. Ryu is the man beside me for this all-important game. It's Formulation versus Gamelord. This should, in theory, if you look at history, have been determining first spot in the group between these teams. But now it's determining, do Gamelord advance first cleanly, or do we have a three-way tie?
It's crazy that we are seeing Formulation in this position where if they lose here, they're out. We've never expected them to be in this situation. And I mean, I think a lot of us coming into this group were expecting, I mean, if Parla just had a few good moments, it would be fine. But now, I mean, if Formulation doesn't win, they're out.
Yeah, if Formulation doesn't win, they are out. That is the stakes that are on the line. We'll get into picks and pans very shortly. I want to pick up on something that we just heard from Mavilla, talking about going the opposite way of the meta, how teams are going one way, Formulation are going the other way. I don't like the direction that Formulation are going, if I'm being completely honest. I feel like their drafts have been away from what we've come to expect from Formulation. Formulation in the split were playing like Seraphine, they were playing a bunch of these different teamfight-focused compositions, whereas now I feel like they're taking some pieces of that, but then don't look so solid with Zauer up in the top lane, and Don hasn't really found his groove yet either.
Yeah, it's funny to see because I actually think coming into this event, I was thinking Mages is still going to be the strongest thing. Them talking about going in the opposite direction, I think I mean, yesterday we saw WREC even picking up ADCs, and we've seen other teams pick up ADCs as well, and they even played Camille in the top lane, so I don't necessarily agree with them. They've been playing the same picks as the other teams, but just not as successful.
Yeah, what I would say is I think my biggest read on Formulation's struggles today have been that they've been unwilling to look at what their opponents have done. Like Parla, that was an easy Galio ban every single game, right? It's like we saw 2 games of Galio to start the day for Parla, and Formulation just refused to ban it. Likewise, I'm like, okay, Formulation know that Gamelord will default to Ahri. They know that Gamelord have been playing around Lonely Kid as well, so surely Formulation have to have learned from that first series how to play against Gamelord at least a little bit better.
It's a little bit bad because we saw Formulation, they had a full series between watching Gamelord and Parla. We saw Parla playing amazingly on the Galio, as you said, and they didn't really care, they just let it through every single game. They also have one game in hand where they saw Gamelord, you know, in that specific match, and they saw Lonely Kid on them, fantastic on that. Darius, they've seen Sefta popping off on Aurelia, and even Ruiz with a fantastic Gragas game.
Yeah.
Actually, Gragas is a pick I would like to point out. Now it's been banned in the beginning, but it was a pick that both Ruiz played really good on. But even Sauer in his first series yesterday was fantastic. So I like the ban so far from Gamelord because Sauer has been showing that he's been unable to play these carry champions. So they're just banning out the Gragas, thinking, okay, this was his safe option. Now we're pushing him onto another champion. And the same goes with Rakan being probably the best champ for Trust.
Yeah, and Rakan, of course, going to be very contested in this series. Hester's Rakan, I think, you know, as a support main yourself, I'm sure that you have a lot of respect for Hester and the way he plays. Irelia picked up first. We've seen Zephyr on this. It worked out a couple of times for Gamelord, but game 2, I think it was, looked a little bit shaky on the side of Gamelord against Parla. So Graves picked up. We just saw Formulation get smashed by the pentakill of this Graves, paired with a Jax as well. So
it's a pick that Formulation has been going back to quite a lot, actually. Kimao seems to be very comfortable on that pick because we have not seen Saw play in the top lane yet. Right now, I don't like that they're picking Graves and Jax so close to each other, because Graves is a fantastic flex pick. You can really put it top, you can put it jungle, and we saw it even last game mid. So with the fact they're picking Jax, which have only been played in the jungle so far, kind of limits their options for flexibility in the draft, which has been a big part of the tournament so far.
Big late game scalers though, both Jax and Graves. We can expect them, if they get to the late game, to be able to hang on, but I feel like Gamelord in this game should come out a little bit stronger than we were expecting in that series earlier. Orianna picked up there. We saw Redemption on it in game 3. It was one of the picks that really helped Gamelord, alongside that Ahri from Ruiz, to kind of steady themselves and get that 2-1 over Parla. That's an Akali picked up, so we're going to see Don on something that's a little bit more aggressive when it comes to being able to team fight early on. Could of course swap up to Zauer, but I would expect it to be Graves top Akali mid, right? Or
the thing about Akali that's interesting is it's actually pretty good into the Aurelia matchup. Aurelia excels when getting a lot of stacks on her passive and then auto-attacking people to death. What Akali can do is put that Shroud down and just wait for the passive to run out. And therefore, Aurelia is not able to use her passive to the full advantage, and then Akali can then re-engage after the passive is out. So I think Akali is a really interesting pick, which I hope they will be pairing against the Aurelia, but I don't think so. I think Aurelia will go into the jungle.
Right? Yeah, exactly that. It's likely to be Aurelia jungle.
I like this ban, actually.
There's a Galio ban, but it's 2 games too late.
Exactly, but I like the Yuumi ban. Yuumi is really strong with both Akali and Jax and Graves, so they're taking out that opportunity for either of those champions to really pop off. So I think, again, I mean, Gamelord looks just extremely prepared for this draft, and they're playing a meta I really like.
And this Senna ban like leads me kind of down the same path about Formulation, not looking at the opponents in front of them and dealing with what's in front of them. My guess is Redemption is playing Orianna. I know it's a flexible champion. I know it could still be Ruiz, but like with Galio off the board already, I don't know that Gamelord are the team that are going to be picking the likes of a Senna Nasus or something like that. I feel like Gamelord will play like into the Varus and that kind of strength. Leona picked up for Trust. We saw Hester piloting Leona a couple of times earlier today. Now we get to see where Gamelord are going.
I mean, Leona is really the pick I feel like Formulation should have used a bit more. It's actually been a pick they've been using even since the playoffs in the the WREC qualifier where Sauer was playing support. It's a pick we know Formulation know how to play against, and it's also really good into the Orianna, which is like a really immobile champion and it's probably the main carrier of this team. But yeah, I mean, so far the Riven is coming out now. That's going to be really exciting.
Could be Ruiz on that Riven in this situation. There could be some funny stuff, but I would expect that Relia to stay in the jungle.
Alistar.
Alistar picked up. We talked about it for Hester a little bit earlier in the day, and you know, Alistar is going to be able to absorb a lot of the damage, a lot of the engage. Still, late game, Graves and Jax will give him some trouble, but I'm kind of wondering how that matchup is going to go for these team fights. That's a Tristana coming through for Fekko, so a little bit of reset potential there to finish fights quickly. I think, no doubt, Formulation have late game here. Like, across the board, they have really strong late game, but Gamelord, I think that skirmishing earlier on in the game has a lot of strength to it with this Riven, with this Aurelia, to really clean fights up quickly.
When I look at this Formulation draft, if they get a proper engage, if they find actually any champion that is not Garen or Alistar off guard, I think if Formulation is able to start the fights, they actually have a really insane draft for like going in and going in hard with Graves dashing forward, Jax jumping in with that counter strike around him, Leona ultimate can lock those carries. But on the other hand, on this Gamelord draft, it's really flexible. If they can go in and out of fights, a lot of mobility. So I think Gamelord has the harder comp to execute, but if they can resist that first burst of damage and card control from Formulation, I think Gamelord is going to come out on top. But once again, you know, it's an all-in or nothing composition for Formulation.
So Formulation, it's do or die for them in this series. They must tie this group up to be 1-1 for all three teams. For Gamelord, the task is simple for them on paper. Advance through this series, take first in the group, and look at that spot towards finals. I think that, you know, it's going to be a little bit quicker, a little bit tougher of a job as they might have expected coming into it. I feel like this group's been a whole lot closer, but Hester and Alistar, Alistar into Leona. As a support main, I'm going to be leaning right on that from Yuryu throughout this matchup. But what's your thoughts as we go into this on those two supports matching up in these comps?
Both champions actually want to kind of do the same thing. They both really like to be going aggressive, being the ones that starts the fights. But what Alistar is really good at in the locked 1v1 matchup between those champions, when Leona goes in, Alistar can just say bye-bye and let her out. So I think Alistar is usually considered a counter pick towards Leona, but it's not like in a vacuum, it's really hard to keep it there.
So we have a couple of different swap-ups here. Riven up to the top lane for Lonely Kid. I thought perhaps it would be Ruiz piloting that Riven. Ruiz is on the Garen, which you know, when I say it's similar to Gragas, it's similar in the way that it's safe in the middle lane. It doesn't really lose this lane. It doesn't really win from what I would imagine up against that Akali. I think it just kind of sits there, pushes the wave back out relatively slowly, and then is just okay.
The reason why I'm pretty sure that the reason why Formulation is putting Graves into Riven is that whenever Riven goes forward, dashes forward, maybe stuns, it's actually pretty easy for Graves just to dash backwards, then auto-attack a few times, put down the smoke screen, and then Riven kind of has two choices. Continue going all in until you burn all your cooldown reductions and you are sitting onto the Graves, or actually dashing out. Because if you go too deep on Graves, Graves will actually kite you, and he will run you down when the cooldowns are up.
Ooh, however, Lonely Kid is saying welcome to top lane Zawa. Zawa on the back end
exactly
of the
what I meant. You know,
though.
Sorry, this is exactly what I meant. When Riven goes too deep in and it doesn't finish him off, Graves can really kite it out, and you see already Jax moving up to that really volatile matchup, which Graves against Riven is.
Yeah, it's going to be volatile. We saw the exhaust come through from Zaur, absorb some of that damage. Lonely Kid still has his ignite, but look, Kamau is back around the top side. Leap Strike over to the top of the rift towards Lonely Kid, but he had the ward. Was able to spot that one out. Slower pace now after that first exchange up in the top lane. So Zefta invading bot side has been spotted out on a ward himself. So Formulation are going to try and contest this.
I think so far, actually, I really like the gameplay of Formulation so far. We see a fight.
Yeah, Zefta goes back in on this double knockup. This is why Hestes Alistair gets bans, and it's all about first blood. Going to Redemption on the Orianna.
I just made the classic caster curse. I just said, I think this is going really well for Formulation, and they just...
Welcome. With great power comes great responsibility, Ryu.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Formulation, I think the game plan was pretty good, you know. Make sure that Sauer is fitting good in that matchup, which was a key highlighted matchup by the analyst just before the game. Making sure Sauer felt comfortable. He got a decent game from Kimao. He made Riven lose a few XP and gold, and, well, Zefta was really quick to see that, and then capitalized on making a play on the other side of the map.
And Redemption is now 1,000 gold up.
Wow.
In this situation. Tristana, we know, scales well into the game, but look, Redemption's game 3 against Parla was really solid. Like, didn't die on the Orianna, I think, at least not until the last fight. I didn't see his end-of-game stats, but for the majority of the game, assisted, set up the kills really well on that game. And, you know, a lot of teams have moved away from Orianna in the bottom lane. We saw it all the way through Spring, but Redemption, it still works very well for Gamelord.
It's actually a thing we talked about on Analyst Disc earlier, that a lot of teams are going for more AD carries in the meta, and I actually said before coming into this tournament, I think Gamelord is a fantastic team around playing around these bottom lane mages, and with Hullbreaker coming into the meta more, it's going to be interesting to see if they adapt. In the first games they played, they actually went a little bit for the AD key. They played 2 games of Varus in a row, and then fell back into the mages, which I think fits this team a lot better, whereas Zefta and Lonely Kid is able to punish their advantages, while Redemption can clearly slowly clear the those waves.
So we'll have to see whether that plays off for Gamelord once again. We did still see the strength of Tristana, that when given time in a lane, you put the explosive charge on the tower, it will deal damage. I don't believe they got the turret plate, as it hasn't dropped quite low, but it is close. So if Fekko gets some time down there, that gold generation from Tristana, the ability to push is so quick.
Yeah, and another interesting thing about this Tristana against Orianna matchup in the early game, you mentioned earlier that he always has 1,000 gold lead, obviously because of the kill. But Tristana's passive, which gives Tristana range the more levels she gets, and Orianna has a lot of range already from level 1. This actually means that Orianna has really an advantageous position before Fekko really scales up and gets level, and now he's even ahead already, which makes it really difficult for Fekko to play this game.
Neutral objectives up means Gamelord are going to focus on the Rift Herald. Formulation are going to focus on the Dragon, and now this is what they did against Parla. Formulation had basically full Dragon control the entire series, and it meant they went 0-2. As Hester goes into the top lane, Headbutt goes back, and it's actually going to slow a little bit of the engage coming through. As Zawa has managed to flash his way back into safety for a moment, but it's not quite enough, as Gamelord will convert the kill under the tower. Nice attempt from Zawa to stay alive, but it wasn't enough with 3 players.
And it's actually a really big problem for Formulation, because not only did they kill the kill onto Zawa, now they get the first turret of the game without burning the Rift Herald, which it also just picked up. Formulation is quickly responding back.
It's a race. Tristana's so good. It's going over to Formulation.
Whoa. With great power comes great responsibility.
I know. Can you stop wielding this? It's like, they're going to get first tower blood. I mean, that's the strength of Tristana. The early push set 1 tower plate basically off, and it meant the rest of the team could just group on it, and Riven wasn't pushing quite as fast. So, yeah, that's a pretty significant moment there.
Jax paired with Tristana means pushing towers really quickly, which is really nice to see. Now we're in a position where Gamelord, they have that 1,000 gold lead advantage, 2-0 in kills, but this Cloud Dragon is going to be really important coming in. We see Sauer is probably wanting to go to the side lane and split push a lot of things. So while he's up there, he's feeling a lot more safe with this Cloud Dragon, which means that his team can actually rotate faster to help him than the other team.
That is very true. We got hull breakers coming through, 2 of them. One on Gamelord on the side of Ruiz, one on the side of Zawa for Formulation. Both of them in the same lane up in the top lane, and we could see Trust floating towards top side to try and go for a dive for an engage, but it's Rift Herald going to be pushed down in the middle lane. I think it just about will get the tower with 1 auto. It may be required on the back of it. Solar Flare comes through, but it isn't quite enough to do more as Gamelord are trying to back themselves away. Redemption on 1 health does get taken down, as that is Don picking up his first kill of the game. There's the trade though, back for Ruiz, picking one up, and Don forced to flash out. Lonely Kid is going to back away with a bomb, but the tower goes to Gamelord.
That was quite clean from Gamelord. I think Redemption was maybe a little too far up at this specific fight, but it worked out well for them. They got the turret, they traded 1 for 1. I think Gamelord is walking away from this quite happily. I mean, it could have been cleaner, but I think they're going to take it.
Yeah, Gamelord will now push bot out, go back to mid, push top out again, and hold things. That's where Formulation are putting their control. Jax and Tristana demolish turrets super quick. So if they're given time without somebody from Gamelord in the lane, it's very easy for them to push on. But look, Hester is roaming up as well. Ruiz is here to absorb some of it under tower. But look, even with Ruiz there, even with Hester going in, it's not fast enough. And Formulation, they're just demolishing everything. They're machines in front of these towers.
It's working really great for them so far, the synergy between Tristana and Jax, which means that if they get to hit the turret just for a few seconds, it's going to be gone. They have no chance of defending that. I think Trust running up there is a good safety because we saw the rotation coming in a bit late from Gamelord. So I think overall a really clean fight for Formulation, and also again this Cloud Dragon really showing how important it is.
That was odd. I think Lonely Kid was trying to go for the engage, then lost track of Don, saw him, and then was like, I'm too late, and couldn't go aggressive.
I feel like the auto attack actually came off, but he was recalled already. That was quite interesting. I think if I was Formulation here, I know that Graves is running into the Garen matchup right now, but I would actually prefer they swap those around and putting Graves into the Riven. Graves already has the Hull Breaker, which means he's a little bit more tanky and can probably tank the first combo from Riven and then kite him down, as I talked about earlier in the game. So I think putting Graves in against the Garen kind of makes Garen win that matchup because he's kind of, just going to absorb it.
Is there a fear, though, that Gamelord win on the other side with their own Hullbreaker? Because Ruiz has it, right? So if you match them, they nullify each other. Is that a concern now as Dragon is spawning?
I mean, Gamelord is happy about it because Graves is supposed to be the one that is pressuring.
Pushing, right?
Exactly.
So Garen holds.
Exactly, and Garen is holding, and it will probably be, I wouldn't say more useful in team fights, but for sure, I mean, Demacia Justice. We've all seen how that really close fights and that Garen can just, execute. Boom.
And we saw that in the previous fight as well. Although Redemption did die for it on the side of Gamelord, and you can see Ruiz has used that Hullbreaker for a moment before it does deactivate going through that middle lane as the rest of the team groups with him. It's actually Don that's pushing out the bottom lane to try and create space, and the vision control around this Dragon Pit from Formulation is actually spotting a lot from Gamelord, but Gamelord have focused vision into the jungle of Formulations. They have a good view on where the engage is coming from.
I really like Formulation's vision control. They all, that ward just expired on the Rift Herald.
It's always the case.
Yeah, but they still have 3 wards from the Dragon side, and now Zephyr going up there actually really well.
Solar Flare logs down on one. That's a double knock-up, though, in exchange with the Shockwave as well, and Hester did the body blocking all the way through, so that now Zephyr had freedom to pick up Trust with the execution from Ruiz is enough. Triple stun is going to at least hold Formulation in place, as in the backline Don had picked off Redemption, but he will fall for it, and Gamelord take 2 overall.
I mean, that was, once again, just a great engage, and now Zephyr is even going to get the Rift Herald as well. I mean, even the Formulation's great vision control, they play well. I mean, it seems like Gamelord is just better. We've seen that throughout the whole day where Formulation have been kind of doing pretty good, pretty bad, pretty good, pretty bad, and I think Gamelord is right now just, exploiting the fact that they're just better players.
Herald went down, and Gamelord, Lonely Kid here is trying to at least delay this Dragon take, and Formulation are getting stalled out. Here come the rest of Gamelord. They're trying to take off the 3-man stack before they can group around this. Trust is here, but already Kamau has gone down. The Dragon has been stolen away from Gamelord, and Gamelord are stealing away Formulation's chances at this point, but in goes Fekko, pulled back off the Shockwave, won't be able to continue off the reset, and yes, Formulation pick up a few kills, but Gamelord overall take the first fight, take the Dragon stolen away, and take 2 more kills themselves.
I would love to highlight this Aurelia Sonia's Hourglass. Zephyr actually saved his entire team by pressing their Sonias. Usually people say if you're already dead and you press Sonias, it's probably a waste. But what he did right there is he delayed. He made Fekko unable to get the reset and then jump onto the entire team and just kill them one by one. We're going to see the fight here once again where Leona actually gets a pretty good start to the fight, and Oriana catches 2 people off guard. But Garen is just too strong for them, and then Zephyr can just kill them all. And as you said, Don picked off Redemption in the back of the fight.
It didn't matter, though, because in came Lonely Kid, cleans him up. That gave Gamelord the advantage to take Rift Herald. We had a follow-up fight a little bit longer that, as you said, that Zhonya's really saving that stasis for Zephyr, delaying the rest of the team fight. I believe Redemption Shockwave was the thing that pulled Fekko back. It may very well have been Hester. It's hard to tell sometimes in the chaos of these team fights, but the fact that Fekko couldn't close the gap, couldn't continue that fight, meant the recess from Tristana, Gamelord got away with their lives. Now Gamelord are going to try and get away with the bottom lane tower, and this feels a little bit more Gamelord favored, but it is only a 2,000 gold lead that they have. Dragons are even, towers are even right now, and gold is fairly even down the line as well.
It really is, and once again we're seeing this top lane matchup where Ruiz just really can laugh in the face of Sour. Sour is once again having quite a rough game. It's been kind of a theme this today.
Oh, Gamelord might be spreading themselves too thin though. Rift Herald on the bottom lane while they were trying to make a play in middle lane at the same time, but is it going to work? Because Fekko is able to jump away. Rift Herald crashed into the tower and it will get taken down by Hester, but look at how long it's taken Gamelord to do this. Trust has delayed this for long enough. If Fekko can get the kill, he at least now is 1v1ing Hester, and Hester's going to take him out on the top of the fight.
lives.
It's a double kill from Hester. Zefta lived for just long enough as Kamau can't get the stun to lock, and Hester says my cooldowns are available. Flash, Pulverize is going to keep him in place, and Hester is the S-tier support, and he's done it all in this fight for Gamelord.
Wow, what an insane final from both sides. Actually, I think it's really impressive that Formulation was able to hold their own against Gamelord in this long team fight. Sour sadly came a little bit late to the party where Hester was able to block his auto attacks. I mean, what an amazing fight, and Redemption and Hester really showing how great of a bot lane they are. The fight actually started with Trust going in. Like, actually, Formulation starts this fight, and we see this play from Zeft. He was unable to get the Q onto Fekko. Fekko was able to get off away, and he could then reset and start doing a lot of damage, but yeah, I mean, it was too late. This Dawn was just popping off, but Zeft there, he lives. For a brief moment, as you said.
Just long enough, right? Don forced to flash on top of him to get the kill, and it buys enough time to pull Kamau out of position. And Gamelord, this was a back and forth fight. You're totally right. Like, this is a good performance by Formulation in order to just slow it down and take a long, extended fight. But I mean, whew, Gamelord, this is... both of these teams are actually pretty close right now, and it shows you how close the teams were in Group B. We thought this would be a stomp for Gamelord in general in this group to 2-0 their way through, and my prediction was Formulation 2-0ing their way through Parla. Parla, remember, for those of you that are just joining us, have won 2-0 over Formulation and find themselves in a situation where they may advance. Gamelord need to win this series in order to advance first. That will put Parla through as that second seed, and Formulation would be making an exit from the WREC finals. Dragon up in 13 seconds. It's going to be a big fight once again.
This group is proving us to be completely different than yesterday. This group we have seen every single game has been kind of close, actually. Formulation, close games into Parla, Parla with the close games against Gamelord. And now, again, Gamelord and Formulation. It's a close game, I think. It really shows the strengths of this region. We have so many great teams in this WREC finals, and here's another fight.
Solar Flare doesn't quite catch the stun on Redemption, only the slow, and in goes Hester to deny this engage. Shockwave on top of it, and Fekko is out of this one. A killing spree for the cow, and Gamelord are going to rip this through. It's another kill going on top for Ruiz, as they found everything they need. Azawa cannot kite his way back fast enough. It's a double kill, it's a clean ace, and it looks like Gamelord are in the driver's seat for game one of this series.
And these fights are exactly what Gamelord wants. When Trust goes in really early without his team being there, Hester, the support, can just push him away, reset the fight, and now Trust is unable to get back in. There's going to be a GG and 1-0 for Gamelord.
Yeah, 2 cannon minions in this lane means 15 seconds on Formulation death timers. Gamelord 1-0 up and 1 game away from being first in Group B.
This was once again a fantastic game from this group. Really competitive performance from Formulation. On the other hand, I think even though Gamelord really showed that they are the better team of those two, at least in the first game, I think Formulation is not going out without a fight, and that's clearly showing.
Yeah, Formulation had some good fights there. I just think that their composition a little too late in the game. Yes, they had good scaling, they had good utility in the game, but I just feel like Gamelord were playing a bit quicker on the objectives. They were able to set up and took the first Rift Heralds of the game. I think Formulation's priority around Dragon, I think in hindsight, with vision on how the games have all gone, I think it's been an over-focus on Dragon and no real way of contesting against more important objectives earlier on.
And one of the most important picks of this game was supposed to be the Grave that is going to be really strong in that silent, but Ruiz was able to capitalize and really neutralize Sour completely.
Yeah, that's been perhaps Ruiz's best strength in the games that Gamelord have won so far, apart from maybe the Ari where he carried. I think Ruiz is starting to warm up on the stage as our Gamelord. We need to cool down for just a few minutes, though, as we go to a break. It's going to be Game 2 between Formulation and Gamelord when we come back.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the WREC Championship Finals. Now, literally, it's the die for Formulation Gaming since they lost the first game versus Gamelord. Ryu, I mean, what an amazing game, consistency from Gamelord. But though I feel like they keep picking these, counter picks over the meta.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Gamelord showing that draft excellence they have. They can all play almost every single champion, and now Ruiz. We've seen him play really good on Gragas today,
Yeah.
Ari today, and now the Garen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and talking about Ruiz, he seems to be picking comfort picks over meta picks. Like, we heard this from the Dawn, actually. I heard this I was talking with him, and he's picking the Garen, he's picking the Ari, he's picking the Gragas. Like, these are his champions. And even though, it wouldn't be the best pick in the draft, we saw it earlier. Like, we were talking about a questionable Ari pick. He picks it, and he just hard carries the game with it, regardless.
Yeah, we're watching the replays right now. We saw this early aggression from the side of Gamelord towards the Baron late side of the map, and they kept winning. They have a lot of pressure on this Garen, building the whole breaker, pressuring in the 1v1 in the bottom lane. But I would highlight Hester, Stewart, Massive, and Alistair, team fight after team fight, knockup after knockup. This guy is a monster.
I mean, we always talk about Hester. We always talk about him being so comfortable on these aggressive supports. Rakan, he's brought out the Alistar now. It's the first time during the WREC finals he's brought out the Alistar. And it just shows how strong he can be on these engaged supports. He went into fights, he was knocking out multiple members, using the stun as well to great effect, and he by far was the best player of that last game.
Yeah, and like Ryu said as well, like you want to have the active supports on Hester, right?
Yeah.
Not the not the reactive supports. Sorry, you don't want to have the Braum, because I believe the only game that Gamelord lost was the game where Hester was on the Braum.
Yep.
Yes.
So you want to put him on the Alistars, you want to put him on the Leonas, you want to put him on the Galio, the Rakan, etc., etc.
But it's going to be quite difficult because just other teams actually realize this and they start betting out all his champs.
Yeah, but you have a lot of options. The Rakan was banned away, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, definitely. He went on to the Alistar. Really good engages, really good knockups, really good feel. He did everything. But the fact is, like, the fight seemed so frustrating for Formulation Gaming, and it was not only so because of the Alistar, but also Akali dives in, gets exhausted. She can do nothing.
Yeah, it was really interesting one because Redemption pick up the exhaust against like champions like Akali. It's just so difficult because when Akali tries to jump in, Redemption just uses the exhaust. Don can't really do anything. He basically can't play the game. And I think this is kind of a really, really popular thing as well with duo lane carries now, is that you don't really pick up the heal or the barrier anymore. It's just all about the exhaust as well. And you can see the stats on the screen now. Look, Heste, 3-0 and 12. He didn't die a single time. He's the only member that didn't die at all. But yeah, even the Don in the mid lane, he did still have a decent performance, but it's just so difficult when you're trying to dive in.
And what I was just gonna say, unfortunately, I couldn't say it before the damage graph. I was gonna say, I'm sure Redemption, or I'm sure Heste did more damage than a few champions, and I cannot prove that I was gonna say that before, but I'm sure that I was gonna say that, and he did. He did do more damage than the top laner. That was amazing.
That was definitely amazing. But the arena damage, and I wanted to highlight this because it was not only because of the exhaust, but Redemption had massive shockwaves carrying out the team fights. And we got to highlight, today, Lonely Key, Heste, even Reese, but Redemption is being massive.
I think it's really great to see Redemption falling back onto these mages in the bot lane. We saw him earlier today play 2 games of Varus. While it looked fine, he looked super comfortable on these mages in the bot lane. And not only in that, he plays around the range extremely well. He was constantly on the max range with those shockwaves, pulling out insane amounts of damage. I mean, Redemption on the mages, I think, they look better on this patch.
It's better, but there is also a weak side about it, right? Like, he's incredibly good on the Orianas. He's incredibly good on these champions, but as Formulation Gaming, you can see it coming, right? And this is the one problem that you have when you're a very one-dimensional player, as playing the mages all the time. Here we can see the stats of Heste, by the way. A surprising amount of damage as the support as well, and 15 KDAs
as a support.
But he was in 15 out of 16 kills. The kill participation that Heste has is one of the highest I've ever seen.
I mean, this guy's just mad. We were all talking about Heste coming into this group in the whole thing, man. Maybe this guy was the best player at the event. He actually, he let me down a little bit in the first series against Parla, but right now he's showing up and showing everyone why he's as Stress said, S-tier support.
It feels like you really need to deactivate Heste somehow. What is included to deactivate this guy, take him out of these enablers, these engaged supports that are, making Gamelord kind of, live and die through the support role. What can Formulation Stuart do? You are smart, Stuart. What can Formulation do? Give them the formula.
I mean, it's really difficult on the side of Formulation because, as I mentioned before the first game as well, teams have tried to ban 5 champions against Heste, but even when you ban 5 champions against Heste, he's still going to bring out something new. I mean, even in that previous draft, Formulation actually left Galio until the second ban phase. Gamelord didn't pick it up at all, so you always thought that maybe they had something different up their sleeve. Obviously, the Alistar was the pick that was instead, but if you're not going to ban the Galio, that's also another champion he can pick up as well. We've seen his Rakan, which he's probably not going to get, but he just has so many different champions. Like I said, try and maybe get him on a Brom or, a more passive champion, but to be honest, it's just really, really difficult.
It is like the control around the neutral objective is just so good when it comes to Gamelord due to how well they team fight. And, I remember, Tristana jumping, they try to engage, but suddenly Alistair jumps into Tristana. Tristana can do nothing, and it's so hard to deal when you're an AD carry, and even for Tristana that has such high mobility. Sometimes it's really hard to deal with these engagings. But guys, we're gonna check on the Coca-Cola pop-off. Sorry, from this match, we had plenty of heights, definitely. Oh, the reactions.
I think we could actually hear Ruiz behind the stage as well. You could always hear him. It's just, I love his passion. I love his reactions and everything as well. You can see everything is beautiful.
It's great to see the passion of these players, finally getting them onto the offline live stage. I mean, meeting them and talking to them and seeing how they react whenever something good happens, yelling to the other team. I mean, it's just the atmosphere here is fantastic.
I don't know if people at home is getting to hear Ruiz screaming.
I'm sure they can. I'm sure they can.
I really think they can, because I mean it is crazy. This has been the Coca-Cola ball, but not because of the the emotions in the face, but how high he was yelling. He was giving his everything. He was giving his heart, because they know right now the fact is that Gamelord is not yet in playoffs. They are not. They have to beat Formulation to make it to the playoffs, and also as the first seed. This is do or die for Formulation Gaming. Healthbreaker, Stuart, Ryu. This is the last chance Formulation has, and I think it's enough with the analyst desk. We're gonna go with our casters for this second game of the series.
Thank you very much, Noah, and the analyst desk. I'm stressed, joined by Darkbreaker, or is it Castbreaker?
Castbreaker, finally! It's gonna be super exciting to finally cast, and this match is gonna be crazy, and we will see how Gamelord is gonna perform. Again, they have been looking super strong, especially Hester on that Alistair. Such an amazing playmaker, and hopefully FMG is going to ban him out somehow.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the draft in a few moments. Make sure you're getting your votes on for your favorites in Twitch chat down there, which I'm sure that'll be the Coca-Cola pop-off of chat reacting to you being in the casting seat. So I'm ready for that plug champ in chat. So, Game 2 draft. You talked about it just a little bit on the analyst desk. You talked about the playmaking supports for Hester.
Yeah.
It feels now like that's the Gamelord we were expecting, where Hester's going in aggressive, getting the team fight started. How do Formulation play against that, do you think?
It's very hard. It's very hard for Formulation to do something, because Hester has such a deep champion pool, and then obviously the Karma still must be banned. Like, Karma has been banned every single time so far. Rakan needs to get banned. Then there's Olaf as well. There are so many power picks that need to be considered, and Zefta so far popping off on that Aurelia, picking it first pick so many times, and Lonely Kid, he can't be banned out. This guy can play everything, so I feel like Formulation Gaming obviously need to focus on Heste and try to go for the comfort picks, or maybe this is a situation where they have to try maybe a cheesy pick and go for a cheesy strategy, go for new picks, because so far whatever they're trying, it's not working.
Yeah, and we've talked about Formulation having different picks in the regular split, and it's do or die for them. The ominous music has started for picks and bans with that deep bass. This time, Formulation get themselves red side. Of course, they had side selection.
Karma needs to get banned. That's what we're gonna see for sure.
And that's the struggle, right? Is like
if you're red side, you always have to ban Karma.
Yeah,
because everyone is telling me she is absolutely broken. She has too much poke. She has the mantra that she can spam over and over. Let's see what Formulation is banning. Here is the Karma ban.
And actually, I said this time Formulation have red side. They were red side in the first game as well. So Gamelord pulling off.
I think they're also gonna ban the Olaf against Zefta, because Olaf can't be open against Zefta. He's absolutely crazy on that Olaf pick.
Yeah, he's good. And I
here
mean,
is the Rakan ban. Trust was super strong on Rakan as well. Question is, if they give Aurelia again for Zefta, what are they gonna pick away?
Yeah, the last ban here would have been Camille from the side of Formulation. I think you have to. Like, Lonely Kid's getting
Lonely Kid and Camille, and Zefta can also play Camille, so it's too strong of a flex pick, and her ultimate is just absolutely amazing to pick off people, and she's one of the most consistent Baron laners right now. Akali's getting banned. Don was popping off on that Akali.
It's gonna leave Jace up. Jace or Camille are gonna be available from the first game.
I wonder if they're just gonna put Zawa on like a weak side Baron laner, because so far every time he was like on more like a strong side Baron laner, he hasn't been performing. And put all of your eggs into the Don basket. He needs to be on playmaking champion. Maybe we can finally see the Yasuo pick, a Yasuo team composition from FMG. I think that's what would be really nice. There is again the Aurelia pick. Jace is open. Maybe we haven't seen Set so far. Set in the Baron lane, Set in the support role. Can be pretty good.
Yeah, we haven't seen it too much. A little bit in yesterday's games. Today we haven't seen so much. So last game here was Graves and Jax for Formulation. I think the Graves is fine. I think it was just how they played the Graves out.
Graves is super good in the jungle, and you can flex pick him in 3 lanes. It's Jax for Kimiao. He loves to play that. Obviously, Zawa could play it, but I definitely see Kimiao on that Jax was super good so far.
Yeah, Kimiao, we saw a little bit of presence in the early game from him on the Jax. I feel like the whole composition was just a little push towards the late game.
I feel like they go for the Riven. Very aggressive team composition.
aggressive for Formulation, but Gamelord have been good at the aggressive playstyle themselves. The Alistair, I imagine, will come later.
I think Galio and Alistair are super good right here for Gamelord, because Galio is a champion that can counter melee champions with his taunt, especially if Riven wants to engage or Jax wants to engage. And Hester on that Galio was also so far good. Redemption, again, just going for that APC. I mean, it's always Gamelords, that's the main strategy that they want to go for. Redemption on APC, and then Hester on a roaming support, like a carry. There's the Galio. I just called it because it's absolutely amazing as an anti-melee champion, and I don't know what FMG is going to pick now against it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. There's
the Seraphine pick. I think it's going to be Fekko on that Seraphine.
So, Formulation played a lot of teamfight playstyle throughout the regular split, with Seraphine paired with another Enchanter from the bottom lane. We've even seen things with Ashe coming through as a support in previous metas.
I think Gamelord is just going to ban supports right now as well. Like, support is still open, and FMG needs to ban out... I mean, it's Baron laners, I guess.
Alistair is gone from Formulation's side of things.
Oh, they are not sure where Galio is gonna be.
I was gonna say this.
Yeah.
If Ruiz could take Galio into a kind of a throwback from Galio being released, where you could play him in mid lane a whole lot. Ruiz has played well on these champions. That kind of just
Ruiz loves the Galio as well, but it can be either mid lane and support as well. I feel like, obviously, banning that Alistair out is pretty good, because there can always be the option of just Alistair in the support role and Galio in the mid lane, and then they have way too much crowd control and engage, because Alistair can engage and Galio can follow up with his ultimate. They're banning the Renekton away, so I think it's gonna be Riven in the top lane, because Renekton is a great pick against Riven in the Baron lane, so banning something away, but Darius is still open for Lonely Kid, and Lonely Kid loves the Darius.
Yeah, we saw them blind picking it into top lane in our earlier series. Those of you that haven't watched a whole lot of Wild Rift recently might be wondering why that Lux.
I like that Lux ban.
Yeah,
because the double poke from Seraphine and Lux is crazy, and Trust has been picking Lux already.
Yeah, and the shielding potential with heals from Seraphine helps, and the damage. This is now
Janna.
double Enchanter bot lane with Janna, Seraphine. So in a similar way to Lux's shields, you can help people keep them alive with the Monsoon as well.
It's good. It's a good pick, because Gamelord with that Aurelia and that Galio, and I feel like they want to play aggressive, they want to engage in, and Janna is such an amazing Enchanter, because she can use her ultimate to disengage for his teammates and peel for that Seraphine who wants to poke from the backline. Use the ultimate, one good ultimate in those teamfights when they're close together, and everyone is getting charmed. Oh, the Ari for Ruiz.
Yeah, and now this is one where I'm like, in my mind, I don't know that there's any real way of Gamelord like team fighting this game against like Seraphine, Janna, that kind of thing. Like, that's a lot of team fight potential.
I think they have insane pickoff.
Yeah?
Zefta went for his Vi pick, and in the regular season he played it a lot actually. And Vi plus Ari have insane pickoff potential. They can pick off people in the side lanes. Especially, I think they're just gonna punish Riven in the side lane. Lonely Kid, Galio, and the Vi. They are just gonna try to pick off people, and Ruiz will also follow, so they have a lot of pick off potential, a lot of crowd control. And Jace, double poke for FMG, but they really don't have any they don't have any tanks.
No, they're relying on healing in
and
teamfights.
Jax is not good against so much crowd control. They have Vi ultimate, they have the Ari charm, they have the Galio taunt, they have the Orianna shockwave, and Aurelia also has stun. So I feel like the Gamelord composition is much more balanced. They have two frontliners. They have Aurelia as the hyper carry backline flanker. They have the consistent damage coming from the Orianna, and Galio, who can be a frontliner, who can peel with his taunts, and who can also follow up the Vi engage with his ultimate.
A lot of pick potential from Gamelord's side. For Formulation, we've talked a little bit about their crowd control, their team fighting, their ability to shield and heal. I think they do have some pretty strong duelists the later this game goes, right? It's like side lane if they...
I think it's gonna be 1-3-1 for FMG, because Jax is gonna split push, Riven is gonna split push, and in the mid lane they have the poke coming in from Jace and Seraphine and Janna. So just try to go Hullbreaker and split in the side lanes, and in the mid lane you just try to stall and just poke them out, because teamfight-wise, 5 vs 5, they are never gonna win. So FMG needs to try to catch off people one by one in the side lanes, maybe 1 vs 2, and then play around the sidelines instead of a 5-5 team fight brawl. So let's see how they're gonna play it out, and hopefully, if they're gonna buy Heartbreaker, they are gonna keep split pushing and not join those team fights, because Teamfight West, they are never gonna win it.
Yeah, this is a little bit more of the Formulation bottom lane that kind of we saw flavors of during the regular split. We saw a couple of games here and there with the Seraphine, so they really are kind of leaving it to the last minute on this. They need to win this game for Formulation to stay in the tournament. They would have to then win again to force a tiebreaker between 3 teams. Gamelord, however, just need to win this game to advance as the first seed out of Group B. That would be our final game of the day, and Gamelord would then go on to face Team Queso tomorrow. They've got to get there first, and this is kind of an unorthodox top lane matchup as Lonely Kid hits the stun. Irelia, we don't see a whole lot in competitive in the top lane, specifically against Riven as well.
I think Lonely Kid is such an amazing mechanical player that he can pull out the Aurelia in the top lane. And obviously Riven in the early game is pretty strong, but if Aurelia lands a stun onto that Riven, she can definitely turn it, especially at level 5 with that ultimate on top of that. She can burst the Riven quicker than the Riven can burst Aurelia. So it's all about the skill matchups.
Right. And I was going to ask you about that, actually, because we know Zawa has just swapped up to the top lane as a permanent role. He, of course, played support before.
Yes.
Do you think there's a complexity here with Lonely Kid picking an unorthodox matchup as well, where you're like, I might know this matchup, and I know you don't?
I think Lonely Kid is much more comfortable on that pick than Zawa, and even though, okay, let's see what's going to happen.
Yeah,
He's taking a lot of damage from the minions. That's a bad trade from him, but overall, I think in this matchup, Lonely Kid is much more experienced, and he has been playing so well in comparison to Zawa. So I think even though this matchup is in the... Okay, let's see what's gonna happen.
Yeah, Hester jumps in, but that top lane matchup, I mean, Gamelord, we'll see whether Lonely Kid can take control of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, bot lane exchange, forced the flash out from Trust and the heal as well with the exhaust.
I like what Zeftar's doing with the jungle clear, by the way. He's again going for the full clear. Getting level 5, and looks like he will try to gank Zawa. The full clear is in particular really good right now because the Scuttle got nerfed and you get less experience. So a lot of junglers, especially if they benefit from that early level 5, the Vi ultimate, then they just go for the full clear.
Yeah, exactly. You get level 5, go towards the lane. If you get that timing with the ult, pick up a kill, look for first blood, and move on back into the jungle. For Zeftar, didn't get it this time. There wasn't really an opportunity, but Zawa was playing around that.
He's already rotating to the bot lane and probably sitting in that bush, seeing if he can find an opening. So
yeah, I mean, the flash is still down from Trust, as is Fekko's exhaust. So
he's already positioned while Jax is still in the jungle.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, wow, that engage was huge!
Fekko under the tower is going to be enough damage for the first blood. Zeftar locked in place for a moment. Is going to at least even it back up with the trade. Kill goes over to Trust, but it's a 1-for-1.
I like that Zeftar flash engage with the first ability and then the ultimate. Secures the first blood, but I think it was Seraphine still secures the kill from against Zeftar.
Yeah, the kill goes over to Trust with the gold, just the way that the Trust, I believe, got that last hit before the tower. But I think Seraphine actually locked Zeftar in place for a moment and caused the tower aggro to do enough. Now Fekko's going to be roaming. Oh, Ruiz actually got caught by that. Didn't quite sidestep the shock blast, but does dodge the stun from Fekko. That would have been another kill going over to Formulation had that landed, but Ruiz did still have his flash. Played it safe.
Nice rotation going on from FMG, trying to force maybe a flash from Ruiz, but it doesn't matter. Let's see what's gonna happen now once the Dragon and the Rift Herald is gonna spawn, and see if they're gonna trade the Herald for the Dragon or if they are both contesting the Dragon.
We've seen Formulation kind of focus on Dragon in games up until this point. Do you have an opinion on which you think is the stronger objective early on in these kind of compositions?
I think for FMG, they definitely should go for the Herald, because 5 vs 5, they probably gonna lose it. So whatever Gamelord wants to do, they should go on the opposite side, because 5 vs 5, they're not gonna win it, and they should try to trade instead and maybe get the turret afterwards.
And if you're playing 1-3-1, is there that much of an impact from Rift Herald this early on? Obviously, it's going to open up the map a little bit more. You want to try and get that mid tower down, but is it that significant?
I think it's pretty good for split push compositions, just so that the top laner, once you secure the turret, he can shove those those waves much more deeper in, and then maybe try to roam. And also, you get the gold advantage, and it brings you tempo once you get the first turret.
We'll have to see who takes the first Rift Herald of the game and whether that actually does have that impact the later we go. Ruiz, I didn't see whether he Spirit Rushed over the wall. I think he didn't because it hasn't gone on cooldown yet. But, of course, trying to just utilize a little bit of that mobility against Dawn as it's Gamelord starting up the Rift Herald for themselves. I saw Kamau just ping that he's on his way to that Rift Herald. So they're actually tempted to fight this, but look at Hester set
That's
up in the
gonna be
bush
tricky. It
already.
looks
They know he's there. He's going to land the taunt on 2, hold him in place, flash over the wall, but over goes Kamau. They may have given him the entrance into the pit. Can they get this? Kamau! It's actually stolen by Fekko, and this is huge for Formulation. They pick up 2 kills, they pick up the Rift Herald, and that's daylight robbery.
Actually, Zawa did such an amazing job right there in the backline, doing so much damage. And Ari was already rotating while Jace was not there, so they thought they had the advantage because it might have been a 5 vs 4, but in the end, just a 4 vs 4, and they played it out really, really well.
I wonder, did it? I feel like Hester gave the opportunity for Kamau to get over the wall there, but it was Fekko that was able to actually steal the Rift Herald away. We'll have to check out the replay exactly how that exchange played out. But now Gamelord, they're facing a 1-3-1 team, and the 1-3-1 team are the ones that have taken that Rift Herald. You just talked about how important it is.
That's so important. Hopefully, there's no first turret fallen yet, and Riven in the top lane split pushing right now, but no one is trying to hold it. Looks like Lonely Kid is rotating, but Gamelord is just going for the... Oh, look at the mid lane. Herald is being used. That's big if they can secure the mid turret.
Yeah, big for Formulation because they know while Gamelord are distracted on Dragon, they can secure mid tower very early
This is such a good trade.
Rift Herald charges, that's the tower going down, and all-important steal converts the Formulation into tower first blood, and now it's Zawa trading up in the top side. If Lonely Kid goes in, he's now got Trust alongside, and this is a fight choice from Lonely Kid.
Lonely
He's
Kid,
gonna say,
can he do
Trust
it?
is gonna take you out. Has the Galio coming as well? He gets the kill in a 1 vs 2 situation, and now Hester is here to try and turn the tide, and Gamelord, the shockwave doesn't quite land. Meanwhile, Jace in the bottom lane, so Gamelord, they take a fight, but look, Formulation are going blow for blow.
Look at the bot lane as well. Like, Jace is gonna secure the bot turret at the same time. Let's see if they're gonna...
Oh, double stun under the tower! This is a 4 vs 2! Gamelord just about get away with only dropping 1 for now, but it was well played by Formulation. Tower goes over to Jace bot lane. Gamelord gets slowed down top. I think they'll even up that exchange, though.
That was a pretty nice try, but in the end it didn't work out, and they're both trading 1-for-1 turrets, but 2 kills. Let's see.
Ooh, Zefta dodges out on the counter-strike, and I think that was not quite enough as Kamau finds the kill on the back end. Gamelord are lucky to get away with 2 of them still alive.
I don't think they can force this one. But overall, Lonely Kid, mechanically, he knew his limits and he gets the 1 vs 2. That was absolutely amazing once he hit that stun there.
Yeah, this is the fight under the tower, though. This is where Fekko kind of evens it back up for a moment with the Seraphine ultimate. So as Lonely Kid looks to dive in, Zefta was charging up double stun, or at least 1 taunt and then into a double stun is what locks him in place. And
that was
Gamelord
actually amazing by Zefta that he dodged the Seraphine ultimate with his first ability first, and then he re-engaged with that ultimate and locked them in.
Locks them in under the tower, secures at least a little bit more gold from that. Now, Formulation have grouped topside to take down that turret. They now have all 3 outer towers taken down, and Riven might be in trouble in the bottom lane, was able to just get away. And Formulation, they have the lead. Formulation have a composition that does scale quite well onto this as well. If they can get that Jax into the side lane with items to help him split push, I think this could very well be the way that they win this game.
I feel like they're playing rotation-wise pretty well, and they're... like, kind of dictating the pace of the game right now.
Yeah, and the difference on this performance from Ruiz is Ari, compared to earlier, is he's 0-0-0. We'll see whether he can get kills from this as Hester is forced to ultimate away from the fight. That's the kill going down against Redemption. And Formulation, with 24 seconds to go until the next Rift Herald, have taken a 4 vs 5 advantage.
Yeah, but the Orianna's gonna respawn with the... like, both Galio and Orianna won't have the ultimate though, so... we will see if they're actually gonna try to contest this one.
Zawa is trading a little bit with Lonely Kid, and you can see the Gamelord are starting to group towards that Rift Herald. 3 seconds on the spawn timer. And here was the Coca-Cola pop-off coming from that outplay in the top lane. I'm going to call it an outplay because 2 vs 4, pretty good to come away with that with a couple of kills. Of course it's Ruiz. Of course it is. Ruiz is pretty much having reactions for the entire Gamelord team throughout this entire tournament.
Shouting the whole time, he's so hyped.
Rift Herald has not been started by either team, and as I say that, Formulation is going to prove me wrong.
This is going to be a tricky team fight. Let's see. I think the key is going to be Seraphine's ultimate, but he's already taking a lot of damage. They are not even trying to contest it because they just were not in the position anymore, because since Galio was still dead and Oriana was also dead right beforehand.
So, coming through this... Oh, Galio died actually while we were...
There he was getting
pop-off. Okay, so we didn't catch that on the live broadcast, and then you can see that Lonely Kid actually was pushing down towards the bottom lane, so that opened up the Rift Herald for Formulation to be able to take it safely.
I think the main issue was the moment they lost the mid-turret, this opens up the map for FMG, and that's why they are dictating the game right now, because they always can shove in the mid-wave, rotate together, and then try to get those side turrets, etc. Like, this is why they have 3 side turrets right now, just because they secured the mid-turret thanks to the Rift Herald.
Oh, and they're going to push right down mid lane with the second Rift Herald of the game as well. And this is going to allow them to cut down towards the dragon afterwards. Zawa has vision of it. I don't think they can get there in time to steal
I think this is a mistake by
But
Gamelord.
look, the tower has already fallen. Are they going to go for an inhib here as well, or are they going to take the fight as they've already taken out Zawa from the back end of this formulation? They're going to rush this down. They get the inhib in the mid tower, and that is huge for the permanent state of the game. That will not respawn, despite the fact that they lose Zawa. That is a massive trade in favor of Formulation off the...
They're trying to chase them down right now. Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, the deny on the engage from Lonely Kid, but he hits 3 with the stun. On top of that, Monsoon will get at least a little bit of healing, but it's all going towards Formulation. They're doing everything they can to take out Gamelord and Ruiz.
They can end it! They can end it! They can end it! They can end mid lane!
Formulation can run down the mid lane and put this to a 1-on-1 series.
That's the mistake was they went for the dragon and ignored the Rift Herald in the mid lane, getting 2 turrets. Then they chased too deep. Zafta went way too deep, and then the Seraphina ultimate. They hit everyone and they just turned it.
With only 2 minions in the mid wave, Formulation have one more chance to stay in the WREC finals. With 1-1 on this series, it's now either Gamelord advance off this next game, or Formulation put us in a 3-way tie. Woo, that was one rush down middle lane. The dragon priority from Gamelord kind of messing things up for them there a little bit.
I think we discussed it earlier already on the analyst desk that sometimes getting that Herald, you saw how valuable the Herald can be if you can secure the turret, especially the mid turret. You can never just ignore the mid turret for Dragon. It's not even the Inferno Dragon. I could understand maybe the Inferno and the Cloud Dragon, which are pretty good, that you might sacrifice the turret for it, but the mid turret is the most important turret of the game.
Well, the first time we're really seeing some of that decisiveness from Formulation today. We're heading to Game 3. Stay with us. You do not want to miss the conclusion of this best of 3 when we come back in a few minutes' time.
till you see a breakthrough. That's right, come on. What? You know we're gonna break through.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the WREC Championship Finals. What a game we just witnessed. Formulation Gaming taking down Gamelord in this last game. It all will be decided in the third game of the series. We got tiebreaker, an 11-minute victory. That wasn't expected.
Yeah, that was totally not expected. But I think the major issue about how that happened is because Gamelord, they were not trading well those objectives. They ignored the Rift Herald in the mid lane twice and they paid for it badly. And also misstepping those teamfights slightly or majorly because of the Seraphine ultimate. But especially those trades at the Rift Herald. They went for the Dragon, ignored the Rift Herald, lost the first turret, and the second time they got punished even harder. The Rift Herald just secured 2 turrets.
Absolutely, yes. And we, Hell's Devil, we have to talk about the Seraphim because it was Faker's pocket pick and it paid off.
We have to talk about the Seraphine. And I keep talking about the Seraphine of Vecco as well, right? Like we saw during the online event, he just picks Seraphine, he wins the game. Or even if they lose, he just carries instead. So, Stuart, is Seraphine gonna get banned?
I'm not too sure if it's going to get banned, but they do have to be careful with the Seraphine now. As you mentioned, Fekko's played it before, is his pocket pick. I think the big turning point of that game was also the Rift Herald still, the first Rift Herald still that they got. As Darkbreaker said, they got the mid lane tower, then he also got the second Rift Herald, which got the mid lane inhibitor, and all they needed was one more team fight win, and that's it. They ended the game in 12 minutes, but the Fekko Seraphine pick is one that I love, and I want to see more of it.
Decent core, we just watching carry the last team fight out of the game. It was absolutely amazing, and we were talking about the Seraphine, but it was well accommodated in the bot lane because we were so surprised about the Janna pick.
Yeah, the Janna pick was amazing. I mean, I kept saying it. Janna pick was absolutely perfect right there. You know, there were counters to it, sure. You know, the Galio ultimate combined with the Vi ultimate, because Vi becomes unstoppable. But the way that Trust played Janna was just phenomenal. He constantly stopped Lonely Kid from the Irelia. He constantly buffed Kim Yao on the Jax. He constantly gave him the attack damage. He just played it perfectly.
We were just in the backstage trying to figure out how these two combos were going to work one into each other. Because, yeah, you had a lot of disengage. You had the Seraphine and you had the Janna with the Monsoon and stuff. But you had the hard engage breaker of Vi. Vi was supposed to work so well, not only because it guarantees you to land at least, but also because it combos so well with Orianna.
Yeah, I think the major issue is why those the team comp of Gamelord didn't work as well as they planned. Like, they had such an amazing power teamfight team comp, but just losing the mid turret made it so hard for them to follow the quick rotations from FMG. Like, every single time they reacted reactionary instead of taking the lead, trying to make plays happen themselves. Like, FMG was rotating left, rotating right, and then Gamelord tried to follow it up. So that's why they just were never group 5 vs 5 quick enough, and they just lost so many objectives for free.
I really think that Fekka looks way more happier than in the picture Hell's Devil because what a game did he get to play. Definitely pivotal, and I really like to see Formulation Gaming trying something new into this game.
The thing is, I would like to see Formulation Gaming putting Vecco on these types of special picks again, and now this is a force to be reckoned with. Like, everyone knew this already, but now we've witnessed it live, right here, that if you give him a champion like the Seraphine, he's gonna destroy you.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact is that we are on the verge of the third game, and we are on the verge of possibly, hypothetically, having a triple tiebreaker into the group. The answer was you're laughing, but the fact is that we may be having that tiebreaker.
It's a possibility, and I think coming into this group, we all predicted that Gamelord would just stop this group.
Destroy everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And we thought that Parlor would be just at the bottom. We thought Formulation would be second seed. But going into it, I think there's a great thing about live tournaments and going into LANs is that you don't know what to expect. Anything can happen. Parlor's taken down Formulation. Formulation now 1-1 against Gamelord, and they definitely struggled a lot as well. So it's so interesting to see all these teams fight against each other live on stage here in Barcelona. And honestly, I can't predict this series at all. I don't know which way it's going to go.
We can get to predict any series today, seriously, because I think the unexpected thing is to have, Gamelord in the second, third map Like, I really wasn't expecting this from Gamelord, who are tiebreaker, you know, the favorites.
Yeah.
Where at least they were one of the favorites to take the whole tournament.
I think it's not. I think it's a mix of both. The other two teams overperforming and Gamelord kind of underperforming.
Underperforming, yeah.
Yeah, because we had so high expectations from them coming into this tournament, but so far they have been looking shaky. And I think the major issue is the decision making so far was kinda shaky. That they didn't know what to do exactly, and that's how they
Yes.
lost the last game, especially. Not. I think draft-wise they won it super hard, but
Yes.
just because of the decision making, like going for those dragons and just giving all the turrets for free, especially the mid turrets. You can never give up a mid turret for free, and that's how it happens.
How it happens. You know, the most excited person in this stage to see Formulation Gaming winning, I don't even think it's the Formulation guys. It's Ryu. It's Ryu because he was so excited to get to cast the third game. Guys, we have enough in the analyst desk. We're gonna be with the casters. The stress, Ryu, it's up to you.
Thank you very much, Noah. Thank you. Yes, Ryu's excited to cast another game, and it's a banger as well. It's... Okay, so it's basically Gamelord advance, or we have a three-way tie. Ryu, what's your thoughts on that game 2 before we jump into potential tiebreaker?
Game 2, thoughts? I mean, with the tiebreaker rules, Formulation winning in 11 minutes could be huge potentially.
Yes, let me explain to you the tiebreaker rules. If we have a tiebreaker, which would mean Formulation win this next game, the 3 teams would each be 1-1. The seeding for a 3-way tiebreaker means we're playing 2 games, and it's determined in the order of game victory time. The quickest team automatically advances to playoffs. The slowest 2 teams will play against each other first. The winner of that match will face the quickest team to then determine seedings for our playoffs. If you're not sure what that means, basically, you gotta win quick. And Formulation just won quick.
And that is going to be huge because earlier today we were almost thinking about maybe is Formulation really out? They had a really poor showing against Parla, and now they're in a situation 1-1 with Gamelord with a really quick win.
And that's the thing is, for Parla, they won really slowly, unfortunately.
That's
so
true.
they're in a position where coming into this series, it was looking so good for them, but both of their wins over Formulation were based on like Elder Dragon fights that went late in the game, whereas Formulation somehow just like demolished Gamelord, who are one of the quickest teams that we have in the WREC. Like, there's a real world where Parla could end up in that first game in tiebreakers, and that would be kind of heartbreaking considering that their win, they took a game off Gamelord, they beat Formulation, like they've overperformed to a point where they were looking good. However, we're not at a tiebreaker yet.
No, we are not. But I mean, I would actually hope that we get the tiebreaker because that
you
means
want to cast more games.
That means more Wild Rift, and I love being here casting Wild Rift, and these players are playing some fantastic games, and watching these guys play is while I'm here. So, I mean, obviously, the more Wild Rift, the better.
Yeah, the more Wild Rift, the better, that is for sure. For Gamelord, they do not want to play any more Wild Rift. For Gamelord, they're like, we're 1 win away from qualifying. Can we just get the damn win and move through it? And I'm going to be honest, I think that probably is a frustration that a lot of Gamelord fans will be feeling today. And that's not to take anything away from Gamelord, but they looked so dominant in the regular season. It's so dominant in that open qualifier that they won for the majority that I feel like it's just been quite frustrating to see them flounder at times. Like that last game, getting rushed through mid lane is a solo queue-esque way of losing the game, where you're like, well, I guess we just lose it 10 minutes.
It was really odd because I actually thought that Gamelord's draft was really well thought out. I feel like their picks and bans were super great, and actually talking about it, I think we're heading into it right now.
But one thing we've talked about behind the scenes, we hadn't seen it until the last game, are picks like the Seraphine formulation, like Feko Seraphine. We've seen it before. We've seen them do very well with it, and finally it comes to the stage, and Formulation pick up an all-important win to tie this series, may very well tie the group. So as we head into Game 3, our final scheduled game of the day, Formulation now find themselves on blue side, and for Gamelord, if I were the coach of Gamelord, I would be drafting fully for a counter matchup for Lonely Kid that he can demolish Zawa, because I think Zawa, unfortunately, in just the 1v1, has not looked as good as we were expecting today, and part of that's from the role swap, right?
obviously it's part of the road swap because Sour usually plays support.
Yeah.
And one of the bans that Gamelord had last game was actually the Gragas as a champion that is actually really good in both the top lane and in the support role. So if I'm Gamelord here, I really look to ban this Gragas out from Sour, not only because he looked great on it yesterday, also because it's a champion that he is used to playing from that support role.
Yeah, and we'll see. Gamelord may very well ban it away. I wouldn't be surprised to see Formulation first pick it if it's available on blue side. I think it is good enough for that role for him. Ruiz has played the Gragas as well, and I think Ruiz has looked very good on those champions that kind of absorb a lot of pressure. The Ahri game that we just saw was a very quiet game for Ruiz. Didn't really have too much impact on the game at all, despite the fact that in Game 3 against Parla he picked the Ahri and popped off. It's kind of swings and roundabouts, but it doesn't feel consistent.
That really is the theme of mid lane actually so far in this entire tournament. Consistency, something we praised and snitched about before coming in. And we've seen both Don and Ruiz have pop-off games, but we've also seen them really fall apart and not really show that much during the game. And actually, Gragas is open. I really hope to see Sour pick up this Gragas round now because we're actually going to see it as well. And the reason I think is this specifically a really good pick is also it can be flex support, it can be flex stronger in the mid lane. We haven't seen it that much in different lanes, but it can be flex a lot. But now, an interesting thing. Only Rakan banned for Heste. What do you think it's going to pick?
Well, Yumi's available, but it wouldn't exactly be the Heste champion. You know, I feel like Galio, despite it being a good champion, because it's secondary engage, I actually don't like it so much for Heste specifically. It's a Riven picked up early that, of course, can flex between multiple roles. Zefta, Lonely Kid, and Ruiz could very well be taking that. And they're kind of setting themselves up potentially for a carry out of the top lane, but it is very early on in this draft.
But the good thing about Riven, again, can be flexed a lot. I mean, here, Ruiz going... I think it's Ruiz going back into this Garen pick. The pick that can neutralize the top lane, but I mean, picking it early is really a theme for Gamelord. I feel like Ruiz has been really fantastic on those three champions, Ahri, Gragas, and Garen, but I am really in doubt if he can show some really good performance on other than that picks, and that's why I think Gamelord are kind of feeling the need to pick this Garen really early.
Which is so odd, because like the games I cast of Purge before we got to the WREC with Stuart, Ruiz was playing like Fizz, he was playing Zed, he was playing carries. I know it's not necessarily the meta, and we are going into a new meta for Europe. We do not get a whole lot of Lux, but Lux has been picked as a carry role in a couple of games recently, especially in North America.
I know it's going to be picked a lot in the carry role in the bot side. I actually would think here, I think Trust is gonna play the Lux. I think Trust and Fekko really likes those really aggressive bot lanes, and even though Lux can work in the carry role in the bot side, if you pair Lux support with a long-range ADC or even long-range mage, that is a bully lane.
That is a bully lane. I know in solo queue, I don't think it's going to be picked here, but Lux Jhin is really oppressive because you have double stun. Caitlyn may very well be paired. I think even Ashe can work with the engage coming from the arrow, right?
And one of the reasons it's really smart from Formulation Gaming going here is that if they go really hard on this 2v2, well, Heste is going to have really a big choice. Am I going to sit down here and protect my carry, or am I going to roam with what I do the best? And if you go roam what you do best, and you're the Lux, parry with a long-range champ, your carry is going to get demolished.
And I like the Seraphine ban here because I feel like there was a meta where we saw a lot of Seraphine paired with other enchanters, right, and taking that away from the board. We just saw Janna Seraphine. Lux was banned in the last game. There goes the Alistar away from Gamelord. Does he go to the Leona? Where do you go on support here?
I think Leona could be a really good champion. It obviously looks is probably right now the most spicy pick on Formulation side, and Leona, I mean, it's an immobile champion, so Leona can maybe pop that off. Also, Leona paired well with Orianna can really carry that ball into the middle of the fight, so I'm interested in seeing what Heste's going to do here. I think that's actually going to be the most interesting pick, but we get a Lee Sin!
Oh, we get Zefta's Lee Sin coming through, and I think this gives Gamelord that early game signal, so it's likely to be Riven for the top lane going up for Lonely Kid, likely to be Garen in the middle lane with Zefta playing that Lee Sin. Now Formulation see the pieces in front of them. Do they put Zawa on Gragas playing full weak side? Do they give the Gragas to Don? That would be the least Formulation-like that I would anticipate. Don playing Gragas is away from what we were saying. There's the Caitlyn, one of those long-range carries we were talking about. Of course, like binding into trap is like a tried and tested combination for these two, whether it's League of Legends PC or Wild Rift. That binding trap combination is oppressive in lane.
It's not the only thing that's good about it. it. Those are two of the longest range champions in the game.
Yep.
Caitlyn's auto attack range, I think it's the longest at level 1.
Yes.
And
base.
also, Lux has a binding which is huge. I mean, those... we get a set mid lane, I think.
So we have also seen Lux played as a mid lane champion once or twice. It's not very often picked. Set more likely to fill that role. Could be a top lane as well. I don't know how that matchup goes into the Riven, but now Gamelord are going to show us what their support is going to be. There's a lot of melee champions, and that is a Leona in top of it as well. So Leona going to look at stunning people around a fight, trying to deny some of the engage, but you know, Formulation's composition has this really solid pack going forward with then very long range carries to stand back.
But it's a very one-dimensional composition. They have a weak side top laner, they have a mid laner who's not really going to be able to do plays because it's a set. It's not really going to carry you the game. Who's your carry? Well, it's Jax and it's Caitlyn. Which lanes does Jax have to play around? Well, only the bot lane here. So this is going to be really volatile matchup, and I'm really curious to see what Hest is going to do. Is he going to sit around there, help the Orianna through the game? Or is he going to roam around with the Lee Sin and get the game started crazy?
That is a fair point. Game starting crazy in general will be what we're watching out for. With this music, I feel like we're about to load into a game of like Donkey Kong Country or something instead of it. I'm ready for Wild Rift though to get into this one. There's some spicy picks here with that Lux. I'm happy to see Lux. I'm happy to see Caitlyn. Caitlyn's one of my favorite champions to cast, and we already have seen some highlight plays with the ace in the hole coming through. Oppressive laning phase, really long range, but Caitlyn is not particularly mobile. The 90 caliber net is not that good as an escape. Things like the Zenith Blade will follow you. You cannot really create that much distance. So if Hester can do, as we know that he does, and find the engage, it's going to be a bad day for Fekko.
And a bad day it's going to be because Lee Sin is so strong in that early game, and actually the way the owner works is that every time she hits an ability on an opposing champion, the next ally that hits that guy is going to do extra damage. And Lee Sin, we know he has burst. Now Leona has a lot of burst. So if you get caught out just the slightest, you're going to die in a second.
So it is all on the line. One more game in Group B to show us whether we're going to have chaos of a three-way tie or whether Gamelord will perform as expected and advance as Seed 1. Formulation need this game. They then need to win through a tiebreaker to qualify. Gamelord, all they've got to do is win here. And that's a catch already starting from Hester. He's walking up to Fekko. This is exactly what we talked about. No net to start this out. No chance from that bottom lane to start the game. Redemption picks up first blood.
What an insane play by Hester. This is the exact thing that cannot happen for Formulation. What I just said before, the only win condition they have is through the bot lane or a Jax popping off in the late game. Hester really showing why he's one of the best players in this tournament.
And I hope we get a replay of that, because I want to know, did Hester skill Zenith Blade, or did he like flash Q, like the engage? Because his flash is on cooldown. I just would love to see exactly how they played that out, because when you're walking into lane with something like Caitlyn, you can just kind of take control of the lane without doing anything aggressive. You're able to just harass from a distance, but it's mid lane. We're getting a lot of harassment down as Don is ticking from the ignite from Ruiz. Don held on to his exhaust, but Zefter's here, and I mean, Zefter, if he moves past that minion wave, that's literally just 2 abilities and Don will die. But that's why Kamau is here. Kamau is deterring the gank. He's at least showing some presence to deny Gamelord a second kill of the game.
I feel like I'm watching Wild Rift 2021. I mean, you know, these early scuttle crabs being taken, aggressive early game junglers, bully lanes in the bot side. I mean, we actually used to seeing a lot of full clears. In this game, we're already seeing some fights happening around the scuttle crab. Hester already leaving the lane after 2 minutes. I mean, he was down there saying, kill for Redemption, good job, my job here is done. Now I on to Zefter and get him a lead.
And that's one of those things about Redemption on this Orianna is, okay, so Orianna is a particularly safe laner. Yes, Caitlyn has a range advantage, but look, you can just push the ball out, make sure you're getting as much of the wave as you can, and with a lead already established on that Orianna, you've got a lot of room to just kind of not die in lane and just allow yourself to scale up in parallel with Fekko. And Orianna's team fighting is always going to be significant in the late game.
If you're a Formulation fan right now, you're not having a good time. This lane is already not really showing out. Fekko and Trust is not able to apply the pressure onto Redemption while Zefter is running around. I mean, Hester is running around the Zefter, so Fekko taking so much damage from Redemption just with its long range. I mean, I'm gonna say it right here, Redemption has been really fantastic this series.
Redemption has been, and I think Redemption's been the strongest point potentially for Gamelord all day. I feel like our first series against Parla, where Gamelord was struggling, some of it went onto Redemption's shoulders for actually carrying through. I know Lonely Kid has had a good performance too, but I think in general Redemption's looked very, very solid.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to see some of these really veteran players step up and show that they have the experience and they know how to play on this offline stage. And now actually Kimao is going for a top lane gang. Is actually going to go up there and just push the wave with Sour. And we see Zed Lee Sin being quite close. Maybe we're potentially going to see a bait from Riven to then Sefter going to clean up.
So with recalls coming through, I'm going to hope that Kamau holds it. We got 25 seconds before this, and the important timestamp of this game is 22 minutes and 2 seconds. For a Formulation victory, if it occurs before 22 minutes and 2 seconds, Formulation will be the top seed for the tiebreaker. If it happens after 22 minutes and 2 seconds, Gamelord will be the top team in the tiebreaker. Meaning, Gamelord win, they're in. Gamelord slow Formulation to a loss, they're going to be first seed, and we'll see how it goes because Gamelord, they just want that win for now. Zara is trying to get himself away. Lonely Kid didn't convert at first, but it's enough to turn away from the explosion and pick up the kill with Ignite. Lonely Kid picks up the kill up in the top lane.
And Gamelord gets to get this first Herald. I've been speaking about it a little bit on Analyst Desk, but if you have to prioritize early game objectives, usually you think Cloud Dragon and Herald are usually the strongest, and after that comes the Infernal Drake and the Mountain Drake. So not only is Gamelord getting this early first blood, potentially first turret blood as well, they're also getting the Herald. I mean, the Herald, which just means like this is a bad time to be a Formulation fan.
Yeah, unfortunately for Formulation, this game is going in the way that we've seen Gamelord smother teams out. I like this play, though, putting a lot of attention down at the bottom lane. This is the kind of way that Formulation can get back into it, is trading objectives and making sure that they're staying relevant in this exchange.
Actually, Hester's looking.
Yeah, Hester wants this. He thinks of the recalls converted and actually, finished. And Kamau, one of them did. It was Fekko actually had backed away. So I think right now they're just going to try and clear this wave, slow Gamelord down. But mid lane, my eyes are drifting on to Lonely Kid, who's trying to find Zawa under the tower. But look, he's a little too healthy for now. And I think Gamelord will think twice about this exchange.
Actually, right now on the back of the stage, I'm pretty sure we are seeing Parla here really preparing, because they know already that they are actually going to play another game if it's a tiebreaker, because they are destined to be in the bottom side, lower bracket of this. So, I'm sure we're seeing a lot of Formulation fans actually extra today.
I mean, for Parla's side of things, they want Gamelord to win this series, though, because if Gamelord win this game, Parla will be the second seed, regardless of the time of game.
That's true.
Formulation have to win in order to force a tiebreaker, and it's only at that point do Parla drop out of being in the semi-finals. So, Gamelord fans, Parla fans are all looking for Gamelord to win this game. I think Formulation, though, this composition has some hidden power. Grouping around the Caitlyn, the Lux, the team fights, I think they have the claws to kind of dig in around some of these objectives that if Gamelord don't respect that, I think that's how Formulation can kind of re-arrest control of this game.
And maybe if Dawn is able to get a really big stone-plated Garen into his own team, I think you have to reach a little bit to talk about Formulation potentially winning this game, because it's looking really terrible for them at the moment. I have a really hard time seeing how they're going to win. If I had to say it actually would be Ruiz has to misstep, pop that stone plate and be thrown in by Don, but
how much of a curse are you trying to build up? How much are you doing it? You've got power, man! And also, I love casting games with players and coaches because they're always like, oh, it's such a big lead. It's like 1k gold. This game's done. Everything's over. Well, Gamelord, they want to advance that lead. They want to keep this going. But Formulation here, under the tower, they deter the Rift Herald. It doesn't get the actual tower kill. Plus, the final spark is going to push the minion wave away, and Formulation will delay.
But let me explain why this 1,000 or 2,000 goal lead is not just 2,000 goal lead. We're seeing a situation where this whole Formulation side is about, let's get this Caitlyn Lux ahead, let's snowball the game, let's get the first turret bot side, we go mid lane, we're going to push that mid turret, we have the priority because these two champions are going to be strong, we've got the Herald, we're pushing the game in our favor, and Lee Sin is going to slowly fall behind, but we're not seeing that.
Don found Lonely Kid, but Kamau doesn't have his counter-strike, and that is a real bad spot to be in. There's the ult from Don, but it's not enough. With the face breaker, can't even get the kill on Lonely Kid, couldn't find the damage, and now Gamelord will try and find the tower. Yes, they land the binding, but Ruiz is just going to do his best to push 3 people away. It's going to be Gamelord taking another tower. And from a 2,000 gold lead, we're up to a 5,000 gold lead just about for Gamelord. And it's getting worse for Formulation, as you said. Yes, Formulation have been able to delay, but I think this mid tower is not long for it, as Caitlyn and Lux will push back. But I think with this Rift Herald coming up, Gamelord are going to turn their focus over to mid.
And it's also a Mountain Drake coming up as well, which is not, I mean, in my opinion at least, not so strong right now compared to the amount of gold that a Rift Herald can potentially give. And it also opens up the map for this Lee Sin to be able to roam around in the jungle. But here, he's actually caught.
He's been caught. Light Binding is going to shine the light with the final spark. But look, Trust doesn't have damage. He is the support, and Gamelord have taken out the Caitlyn Feckle with that immobility. Solar Flare lands from Hester, and the sunlight is just too bright for Formulation. John is going to drag one under the tower, but it's not enough. They can't put the damage out. Redemption has got the shields, but maybe they're turning it. Lonely Kid gets dropped. Kamau is trying to at least fight this out. Gets to regroup with Zawa, and they have lost 2. Formulation, they've at least slowed Gamelord again, but it's not quite enough to hold the lead, because I think mid tower drops off this, and Gamelord can at least try and advance towards these objectives.
And it's really interesting to see how this, we're actually seeing the item builds right now. You're seeing 2 items starting to be completed from the Gamelord side. I think when they recall, oh, here you see the state of fight again. Actually, it looks like Lee Sin is getting caught, but he has seemed really quickly helping him there. Hester is able to get into the back line, and that's an amazing ultimate onto Lux.
Yeah, Solar Flare lands, hits Lux. He really punishes some of that immobility that we talked about from the bottom lane of Formulation. And, you know, that stasis buy out of Lee Sin, pretty significant when you get that light binding, just able to pop it and delay things. I feel like Formulation, the swaps that they made coming into the WREC finals, I like them on paper, and I think with more time, I think this Formulation could be even stronger than the Formulation we saw in the regular split. But I think individually, we have 2 incredibly strong top laners in Europe, and Parla showed that they're pretty strong as well playing around top side. And I think Zawa, unfortunately, has been a little bit unmatched, and the team haven't played towards him either. He's been playing weak side, and it means he's down in gold, because there's just no priority to give to him. There's no help to be around for Zawa, and he finds himself over 2,000 gold down in this game, and there's no help coming. That's the biggest problem. There is no way of helping him through this game because of how the early game has gone. With Elise and Riven, they're of course going to have control.
And it's also a little bit sad to see, because Sour was known 1 year ago to be one of the best mid laners we have in Europe.
Right.
And when he swapped to support, it was really it was nice to see him, you know, on this aggressive thing. And I'm pretty sure Formulation was thinking, hey, we're seeing Random and Acolyte, Lonely Kid being amazing top laners. Maybe we can make Sour become this one amazing top laner, but he's not really showing it so far.
And that's the point that I want to ensure that people take away from this, is I am not saying Zawa is playing badly. What I'm saying is Formulation are not setting Zawa up for success with the amount of time they've had to come into this, and not with the way that they've played around it. And I think it's just too much to ask against Gamelord when they're playing well. Gamelord haven't looked as clean as they've been in the regular split, but this Gamelord with Lonely Kid, with Zefta on an earlier game jungle where they can actually make these plays, I think is too much for this Formulation to handle so far.
And this is a really difficult spot for Formulation to be in, because they have actually lost almost all of the outer turrets. I mean, at least the middle outer turret, and that means that Lee Sin can be roaming around inside of that jungle and be using those sonic waves over the walls. If he hits one of the key targets, he can dash behind them and potentially just kick them in towards his team, and that means bad time to be Formulation. So yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Zefta is going to open up this game even more with this insane mobility he has, and also the playmaking tools he has, because we know how big of a playmaker Zefta can be.
Yeah, Zefta absolutely, when given that opportunity to take control of the jungle and to go aggressively into the enemy jungle, that's when Gamelord have looked best. Zefta's been playing a lot of Irelia this tournament, and so far I don't know what to make of it, because I think it does have a lot of potency, and there's reasons that they're playing it. I think I just like him on these traditional junglers where it's like Lee Sin, where you just get a fight started, and it's Dom that tries to get this fight started, and Zefta is deciding to end it. And that's the killing spree for Zefta, as Gamelord know they have the advantage. They land at least some crowd control, and Gamelord will back away. Lonely Kid has the flank. Can he get it? He will land it on 3, but forced to back away as he can't quite survive. Stasis is going to hold Zefta for a moment, but maybe Formulation have turned this back around with the grouped up team fights that we talked about. It was oh so dangerous. Zawa wants to prove me wrong and play playing on the front line, has a lot of damage built into his kit. As Zephyr wants to one-man army it, but he's overextended. And is that the turnaround the Formulation needed? Just as we're singing his praises, Zephyr falls on the back end. Rift Herald up in 10. Maybe this is, sorry, it's Baron up in 10. Formulation have Rift Herald in the middle lane. Is this the opening to slow the game down?
Trust has been playing amazing on this Lux, getting in a huge double binding in the start to start this fight. And actually, even though the Dawn was caught up really off guard in the beginning of the fight, Formulation played it fantastic to come back and actually win it in the end. Sao was incredible tank. Here we actually see the play where Dawn is getting caught out. He's really greeting for that plan, whereas Ruiz is kind of trying to buy some time while they kill Dawn, but this amazing stun by Heste. But Sao actually saves him, and now Lee Sin is Lonely Kid is actually flanking, whereas Lee Sin goes in, but here we see the binding that really saves the fight for Formulation.
Yeah, double stun into the second half of the fight. And I mean, we talked about, do Formulation have enough in the kit, but this is what their composition does.
Again,
This is how they play.
This guy is so good, and Sour so tanky on this Gragas. I mean, really proving you wrong, actually, both of us, I would say.
I'm always happy to be proved wrong, but that's the Cloud Drake going down with Gamelord. There is the suplex from Set, but the damage doesn't come through as Gamelord are going to try and at least stabilize from that last fight. Set has fallen already, double knockup for a moment, but another double binding comes through. Fekko and Trust is still alive, but Zara is going to charge through the fight with Hester. Now it's just about peeling off the stragglers from this fight, and Zephyr proved me wrong for one fight, but unfortunately for Formulation, they lose 3 from that exchange. That's going to open up the Baron.
And one of the key things of this fight was actually Redemption's exhaust, because the second the Dawn took Garen into the middle of the team, he exhausted him immediately, so the damage would be really low. And that actually gave them the opportunity to turn the fight in their favor and win the Baron.
I'm really a fan of Formulation's team fighting. I always have been throughout the entirety of the WREC, and we've seen glimpses of it. We're seeing these different strategies that do work in team fights, but I think Gamelord's early game lead that we talked about, I said it's only 2k, then it became 5k, and I think it was just too much of a distance so far, and with this Baron, I think it becomes even more difficult now for Formulation to hold on, but with the Coca-Cola pop-off, Gamelord are trying to pop their way through to the semi-finals.
I love watching Bruce. He's so passionate about the game and everything. I mean, this guy, how can you not love him?
I don't know whose voice is going to be blown out more by the end of this weekend, mine or Ruiz from these plays, but it's Don on the sideline, unfortunately. Well, I was going to say unfortunately. I mean, he flashed, he got himself away, but right into the waiting arms of Zephyr, and it's a 5 versus 4. Now Gamelord can walk it through with the Baron. We'll be able to take more towers.
We highlighted Dawn before this game, and this not has been showing. I told you again yesterday as well, the mid lane consistency has just not been it so far from all the mid laners. And yeah, Dawn is showing it once again.
Double stun. Final Spark doesn't have the damage. That is a support Lux. It is not a carry Lux, so we are not bursting people down as Gamelord. That's a good explosive cast. Keeps Hester in the base, but Hester can't get himself out. Didn't have the flash available. Ruiz is actually going to put himself over the wall, and he's going to flash out for now, but it's enough for Formulation to at least take some kills. The inhibitor stays. They've got to deny the minion wave. They knock the minions back. No way is that going to survive on 23 health. They've got to push the minions back. It's top lane, I believe, that actually got pushed through as Lonely Kid is going to try and finish the suplex. What? Tower defense quite literally for Formulation. It's a double kill for Zephyr, but Formulation are holding on by their fingertips. There's supers through the top side in the next few minutes, but Zephyr is trying to escape. Redemption is going to try and keep Gamelord at least in the base. The tower in middle lane did fall. The inhibitor is gone, but Formulation have one last life in the WREC finals from that defense.
That was crazy. I mean, I think Redemption had 2 ultimates that fight. That Dawn ultimate really pushed the entire team away from the minion wave. He got to save the turret. That was an incredible fight from everyone around the Formulation. And I actually think that fight started with Ruiz going a little bit too far. First with Gragas cast to pull Hester in. Hester was then alone, and Ruiz was like, hey, I'm going to help you, mate. He jumped over the wall with his ultimate, and that started the fight on a completely different level, with the Baron minions was not able to kill up the middle turret. I actually think, oh, it's actually gone now.
Yeah, it is. It did finally drop to minions on the back end of this fight, but this is what you were talking about. After the overextension, Formulation hold on to the turret for a moment longer, but 2 inhibs are now down following this fight.
And actually, one of the things that I want to key out right now, I think, even though Gamelord is obviously in the position to win this game, if you want to be a Formulation fan and you want to have some more hope, Caitlyn has actually really gone online. I think he's on 13,000 gold right now. He has almost finishing his... He actually finished his third item right now. And that is the power spike for 80 carries. We have not seen 80 carries have the most amount of success for Gamelord for Gamelord and Formulation so far. But now he's online. It's been 17 minutes and the 80 carries position is really strong now.
Does this tale have one more twist? Months ago, Gamelord found themselves up against your team, Ryu, against Viv Esports. They found themselves on the verge of getting reverse swept, and they held on in the series. Gamelord find themselves unexpectedly 1 win away, but 1 loss away from a tiebreaker. And Gamelord, they have to win this game in order to advance cleanly, and Hester's going to go in. He's found himself 1 versus 4. There's the suplex on top of it. Damage.
Oh, the shockwave!
Formulation's team fight may be disrupted by the shockwave, but Hester has dropped already. Is there enough damage from Formulation on the backside of this? As you talked about Caitlyn coming online, Fekko trying to put the damage out. He's found 1. He's found 2. Formulation and they found a tiebreaker. A Slowly Kid is going to try and shut Fekko out. There's the stasis. It's going to drop him. It's Lonely Kid advancing through. It was so unbelievably close, but it's Ruiz. The pop-off is in the base. Ruiz has done enough alongside Redemption. It's not as clean as they would have liked, but Gamelord, from winning the European Open bracket, will advance to the semi-finals with a 2-1 win over Formulation.
What a clutch team Gamelord is. They often find themselves in these tricky positions, having gotten the lead, then throw a little bit, but in the end game, when the game is the most difficult to play, they show that they are super experienced and they can clutch it out almost every single time. What an amazing performance.
Oh, it was so close for Formulation, and it was too close for Gamelord. That is way closer than it should have been. The big story of the day, though, is neither of these teams. It's Parla advancing in second spot. Like, Formulation nearly hung on for a tiebreaker. Gamelord, they went 2-1 over Parla, 2-1 over Formulation. They will be first in the group. They will now face Team Queso. But our second matchup is going to be Rix versus Parla, and I didn't think I was going to say that.
Rix versus Parla. Parla advancing through to the playoffs as the Turkish team's last hope. They had a difficult time in the Turkish bracket, falling to Nasser in the finals. Everyone said when they met this group with either Unicorns of Law, Formulation Gaming, and Gamelord, everyone, including myself, counted Parla out, but they proved me and everyone else wrong that they are a team. They deserve to be here, and they have to show that tomorrow against Rix.
Ooh, I know we're talking about Parla. I'm just really hyped for them. So, for Gamelord, the story is they've weathered the storm of today. They now have to go and reset a little bit. Look back at what has made them strong. It's 2-2-1s that they won. They have a lot of games to go and look at, a lot of games to go and assess. We'll have more time to talk about Gamelord tomorrow and in the rest of the games, but now it's going to be the analyst desk breaking down Gamelord's survival of a 2-1 over Formulation.
It was so close for Formulation Gaming. They were on the verge to force a tiebreaker, but in the end, it was Gamelord's victory. What a game we just had here, Darkbreak. It was a crazy game, I have to say. That last Hestus engage, we really thought he was inting.
Yeah. In the end, I think like both Lee Sin and Leona, they just played so amazing overall on the whole map. Like Hester and Zephyr, they were just picking people left and right. And even though Hester wasn't like in the last team fight, he didn't perform as well. Other teammates just stepped up. Lonely Kid just stepped up on that driven, and that's how they just won it in the last team fight, even though it was so tight.
And it's crazy because if they did lose that one team fight, even though they dominated the entire game, they would have just lost the game, and they would have lost it. And Formulation Gaming would have been on top of Gamelord. They would have been the #1 seed, and they would have qualified. Like, that one team fight was all or nothing, and Gamelord took it, and they took the game.
Definitely, yes. It was really, really close. I have to say, Formulation came with so bold, strategies. They pulled out once again. Kaylin and the Lux. It worked versus Unicorns of Love, but we saw Kaylin being so punished early in the game, and it really didn't work. But somehow they got back into the game as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the early game, Caitlyn died at level 1, I think. I think Heste flashed in and died at level 1. And the thing about Caitlyn Lux is you need to be dominant in that lane. You need to make sure that you win that laning phase, because when you get into the mid and late game, if you're fall behind on Caitlyn Lux, then it's going to be really, really hard. But saying that, trust is Lux. The bindings was nearly so clutch. There were so many bindings throughout that entire game that it felt like we felt backstage as well, like Formulation, they could actually still win this. They were so far behind on gold, but the bindings, the crowd control afterwards as well, it was such a close game, and honestly, it could have gone either way throughout the entire game.
It could have gone either both ways, because we saw, and this game, in my opinion, it's been all about the emotion and the pressure onto both teams, because you had a tiebreaker rule, tick-tocking over you, the Formulation and Gamelord as well, and we saw how close the team fights were, because that break, we were back in the stage, highlighting the Lux, how good Trust he was performing on the enchanters, or also the mages. That binding, trying to defend the mid inhibitor was massive.
Yeah, like those dark binds are just so crazy, because every single time Gamelord tried to chase people down, Lux stopped them. Lux just stopped them, and also he caught people off guard, so they collapsed on that person who got dark binded, especially the Garen at the inhibitor turret. They caught Garen, and then Set came in and they managed to turn it all around.
But I still gotta give credits to Formulation Gaming, right? Like they did so well against Unicorns of Love.
Yes.
They did so well when they took that game against Gamelord. All of these players did so well individually. They set up a whole new team, right? Like they changed roles and everything like that, but they still did incredibly well. And I feel they should be very proud of themselves, because they took away a game from Gamelord as well, and they made it this far.
Lonely Kid's damage. Wow, it's being crazy. That Breaker was talking about how Lonely Kid popped off in that last team fight, because the two team fights before that one were Lux binding, also massive face breaker from Set, and they were delivering, but that one, it's all about, Stuart, it's today all about the last Drake.
It was all about that last dragon, and it was so close. I feel like both teams were trying to go back and forth. They were trying so hard to be able to just win that last fight. I mean, that's the crazy thing about Wild Rift, is that when it gets to like the 15-20 minute mark, that Elder Dragon, both teams have to group for that Elder Dragon. That's exactly what happened. And as you said at the start, Heste trying to go in with Leona went a little bit too far, but it was just back and forth the entire time as well. And I felt like if Formulation just did a few things different, then it could have gone either way. It could have even gone Formulation's way. And like you said, the time was ticking as well. That 22 minutes and 2 seconds. If they won before that, then they would have gone through as the first seed. They would have gone through straight to semi-finals. But now the Gamelord win, they're out of the competition completely.
Absolutely. I mean, it was so close, yet so far for Formulation. They have to say goodbye to the competition. Guys, we're going to watch the play of the game. We have plenty of team fights, amazing team fights in this game.
This is it.
And this is going to be the last Hesse Engage Breaker.
Yeah, just pay attention to what Lonely Kid is going to do in a bit. They're dancing around right now, back and forth, fighting, using all of the abilities, and Garen is gonna soon move to the mid lane because he wants to end the game. And look at what Lonely Kid is gonna do right now. He is just gonna go for the Caitlyn. And now the others are engaging him, but he's still surviving. He has the death dance. He's getting those sustain. He's still surviving, and the kid just ended. It was absolutely crazy how strong death dance is right now that they changed it with a patch.
Do you know the crazy thing about that fight as well is that Fekko's stasis actually stopped the shield from the Lux.
Yes.
And I feel like if Trust actually had that shield on Fekko, then he would have survived Riven and he actually would have won that fight. So I think that small little miscommunication where Fekko's stasis and then the Lux shield didn't actually shield him at all, because obviously he's in stasis, that I felt like was actually the big difference, because if you get that shield, then you can probably survive against Riven, you can kill Lonely Kid, and you can potentially even win the game.
And the fact is that on the other side of the wall, you had Redemption 100 HP, like barely surviving, but delivering shields to the Riven as well. It's been one crazy game, and we have, I think it is Gamelord with the interview. Please, what have you to tell us?
Hello everyone, well I'm here with Redemption, the carry for Gamelord. So welcome Redemption, first of all. Congratulations for that incredible series. But, of course, you went 2-1. Did you expect Formulation Gaming to put such an incredible fight?
No, we didn't expect it to lose a game to Formulation, neither to lose a game to the Turkish team, but the stage is doing something to us, and I really don't like it, but we can come back stronger tomorrow.
Yeah, because tomorrow's games are going to be intense. As the first seed, you're to be facing Team Kezo. How do you feel about that matchup? What do you think? What are your expectations?
I expect 4 supports from Team Keso and 1 hyper carry jungler.
Okay, just dropping some hints in here. Okay. And of course, I also need to ask you about, how are you finding it? Because you're telling me about the stage, about an LAN event being kind of difficult, but you guys have so much energy. You can see it in WREC, for example, so much screaming, so much jumping. Are you getting something from that as well? Are you getting so emotional and hyped up?
I think Riza has been doing a huge thing for us. Like, he's bringing so much energy. He's always so happy, always positive, and I love the energy coming from Riza.
Okay, we expect to see you two doing the same. Okay, but finally, last question here, very important. So many people have seen your games today, games, and they're like, Gamelord not as good, we were expecting more, they were the favorites. What do you have to say to those people to convince them that you actually can win this?
Just have to say, watch us.
Well, there you go, simple short message. Watch them tomorrow. Once again, thank you very much, Redemption. We will see more of you. Back to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Kamala. Thank you very much, Redemption. I take that statement. Watch us. We get to watch plenty of games of Gamelord today. Definitely. What do you think, tiebreaker? Are they favorites? Are not they the favorites?
I think it's gonna be hard to say. Like, they haven't been looking that strong right now, and Team Kesel has been looking pretty good. I think the highlight of tomorrow between those two teams is gonna be Accurate versus Lonykid. Accurate was an absolute beast in the Baron lane, especially on that Renekton. And Lonykid, this guy is absolutely crazy. He is one of the best Baron laners. He showed it every single game. He is performing, doing super well.
Yeah, and I hope they have another ace up their sleeves, because Gamelord has been incredibly good, but in my opinion, it's a bit one-dimensional. They pick the same picks over and over again. They do incredibly well on these picks. But a team like WREC and Team Queso, who are known to draft incredibly well and who are known for their macro games, I feel are able to punish this one-dimensional draft that Gamelord has been showing us right now.
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to have a clash of styles, because Stuart, in my opinion, we get to see more diverse strategies yesterday. Today the teams were all about the 5v5 or sticking to the comfort picks. Yesterday was all about, the flexibility.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely WREC with the flexibility that they offer as well, with how many comfort picks they have and how many champions they can play. Whereas Gamelord today, they picked a lot of the same champions, a lot of the picks that we've seen from them before. We didn't really see anything new from them. We saw Zefta's stats there as well. Zefta bringing out the Lee Sin. This is picks that we want to see from Gamelord. These aggressive picks that we're used to seeing from them in the WREC regular season. And I want to see more from this. I want to see more aggressive picks, them going forward as well. Because Zefta, really strong, but also another person who was really strong in this series was Heste.
And now, guys, let's see who was our MVP of this series of this Gamelord versus Formulation Gaming, because I have a name in mind. Tiebreaker. Who could be?
Heste on engaging supports. That's what I was preaching. This guy is so crazy when he is on those engaging supports, on that Alistar who was making plays left and right, tanking so much, and especially on that Leona in the early game in combination with that Lee Sin, they were picking off people left and right, and that's how they controlled the pace of the game.
And this is the one guy that you cannot ban against. Like I just talked about that one-dimensional draft, but Heste is the one guy that you just can't ban against. Like, you ban the Rakan, you ban the Galio, you ban the Alistar, you ban the Leona, he's gonna pick something else. And that's the beauty about Heste. He can pick anything and he can make anything work, and he'll be the best in it in Europe.
And now, guys, we have to keep in mind that 3 out of these 4 teams are going to make it to Icons. It's going to be, we have WREC, we have Gamelord, we have Pala, and we have Team Queso. 3 of these teams are going to be on Icons this summer. And definitely, I don't know what expectations you do have for today, because we're going to have this Gamelord versus Team Queso, and we're going to have Pala versus WREC. And I want to ask you, what your expectations are.
I mean, I'm Parla all the way now. I gotta be real honest with you. After that first game, not even the first series, after the first game that Parla showed us, where they lost against Gamelord, which is, you know, kind of funny, I was already Parla all the way. I saw the potential in this team, and I'm so happy that they actually proved themselves by beating Formulation Gaming and making it to the top 4. So for me, it's Parla all the way.
It's Pala over WREC.
We have dreams.
You have dreams. Okay, we have Pala standing here. But now, guys, this is our bracket. WREC versus Pala, as we were discussing, and also Gamelord versus Team Queso. And I want to ask you, tiebreaker, about that game, because it's like expectations one-dimensional versus, you know, adaptability, flexibility. Who's going to be the best?
I think WREC is still gonna take the game against Pala. Pala has been looking absolutely amazing today, but WREC is a monster team. Random, especially in the Baron lane, was looking so crazy. So overall, I think it's still gonna be in favor of WREC, but who knows what's gonna happen tomorrow, and especially the second match.
That's
Team Queso versus Gamelord. This is gonna be a banger match. This is gonna be super competitive and intense.
definitely. And the fact is that, I don't know, we get to see to have third maps from the side of Gamelord. In my opinion, is to Team Queso get to see like more decisive in the games.
I think Team Queso, I mean, they saw a lot from Gamelord today as well. They also had played a lot as well from themselves. I mean, this is kind of like 2 really one-dimensional teams as well, because Team Queso kind of played the same, because Team Queso always try and play the same play style. They always try and play, you know, try and get Andre on the carry, try and like put, you know, 4 supports even. We heard from Redemption as well. There he's expecting 4 supports and then Andre as well, and the Gamelord as well. You know, they're kind of picking the same picks as well with, you know, everything that they picked. You know, Redemption on the Orianna, Ruiz on this Garen and the Ari. So it's going to be a really interesting match to see if any of these 2 teams are going to adapt after this first day that they played.
Tomorrow we have the semi-finals, and we get to see which 2 teams are going to make it not only to the finals, but also to Icons. Guys, thank you very much for joining me in the analyst desk. And for you people, thank you very much for being with us all day long. We get to see you tomorrow. Goodbye.